Welcome back to another episode of Uncut and Unfiltered. Today, we are covering a very exciting distillery. This is actually the world's first fully licensed whiskey distillery. So the world's oldest licensed distillery, dating back to 1608. I hope I'm getting that date right.
You've done your
I've done it right. There we go. I've got the thumbs up. Today, we are being welcomed. I didn't even do the research. I just remember that off the top of the dome, funnily enough. It's an important date to the Irish people.
I think the Irish are born with that date embedded
into our minds. We've all got tattoos. Today, we are welcoming the Bushmills Malt Maven, Janice, to the studio. Janice, thank you so much for joining us today
you
for the podcast.
Introduced me by my ridiculous handle.
Oh, it's a great handle.
I wanted something with alliteration, and that was all I could come up with. But no,
the Bushmills Malt Maven. That's a good one. I like it. I like it.
It's grown on me. No, I do like it now. I feel like I've embraced it. It's part of me now.
Good.
But yeah, thank you for having me today.
Welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for coming down, Stevie. You're always here, mate. Part of the bloody furniture.
Not important.
Not important, but excited.
I am actually. I've only ever tried Bushmills through you at festivals and things like that.
Yeah.
Well, that means I'm doing my job.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing.
I had a preconception of Bushmills, maybe like some people did. I haven't actually owned any bottles yet, but I'm really excited to learn more today and to tuck into a few expressions there that I haven't tried. So yeah, I'm really excited.
Buzzing.
First Irish brand we've had.
That's what I was just thinking. From a point of view of it being exclusively an Irish episode,
really,
I think this is the first one.
Well, I'm glad to be that person.
We get a lot of comments on the podcast saying, "Oh, you boys don't know anything about Scotch. You're not Scottish. You shouldn't be talking about whiskey. You're not Scottish." And to those people, I might just say that whiskey came from Ireland. And we gave it to the Scots, right? This is the oldest licensed distillery in the world, and it's from Ireland. So let's give the Irish some props. Janice, you're going to talk us through this core range here. We've got, this range of whiskies. It's not all core range, is it? You've got one of the Causeway collection.
So I have a few key
different bits going on
of the core range.
Talk to us a little bit about what the range looks like here before we get stuck in. Yeah. What is it that you guys are trying to achieve at Bushmills?
Beautiful. Okay, right. Well, with the core range of what we're going to be sampling today, we've had the 10, 16 and 21 for quite a long time. Yep. Every now and then, like example, this year we did release a UK exclusive 15-year-old with a cognac cask finish as well.
Cool.
In Ireland at the same time, they released a 14-year-old with a Malaga cask finish.
Cool.
So that's the core range that we've had, quite well established for a long time, and 3 very different flavor profiles as well. This is what I love about this range as well, because it gets a little bit boring if it's just like an older version of this whiskey. We're definitely not about that.
Yep.
And then, we have our beautiful Causeway collection. So just like a little bit of background on the Causeway. Basically, it's just limited cask releases that we put into specific countries. So we have 2 exclusives for the UK at the moment, one of which that we're going to be trying today.
Awesome.
And then, I treated you with the last one that we're going to be sampling.
Salivating already.
Yes, last year we released a 25 and a 30-year-old Bushmills because, as you have stressed, we've been here quite a long time. We've been sitting on a lot of aged stock for quite a bit. So, but there is that kind of running joke when we started releasing, because there was a 44 we released earlier on this year that was like a Dubai travel retail exclusive. We then released a 31 and a 36-year-old within like my first 2 months of the job.
Amazing.
But like the running joke that was said to me more than one person was like, was there just like a random warehouse that you forgot about that you found one? Oh crap, we need to use
get all this stuff out now. Go.
I'm pretty sure that wasn't the case, but it's nice that we're really showcasing, we've been here a while.
I mean, a lot of distilleries talk about being around, 100 years, 200 years in Scotch is a rare marker to hear. We are talking over 400 years of whiskey history with this distillery.
That's mad.
I mean, it's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
It really is a stretch of time.
Has it ever closed? I'm sure it has, but...
So, license to distill given in 1608. And I stress legal license to distill at that point too. No, properly, fully operational from like the late 1700s. We go to the late 1800s. We went on fire twice.
Yes.
So yeah, but like since late 1800s, which was the golden era of Irish whiskey, we have been fully operational in the lovely old Bushmills distillery. But like if anyone's ever done one of my tasting/trainings, I always do go into like a little bit in Irish whiskey history as a whole of just like that. You know, I always go around the room to people and kind of go, okay, tell me your name. What's your favorite whiskey? And I'll always do my dramatic thing of pointing out to the people that most of you picked some form of Scotch single malt, which is fascinating because there was a point in history where the whole world was drinking Irish whiskey.
I mean, not only drinking Irish whiskey, but there was a time when Scottish producers would ship their casks from Scotland to Dublin and back the same day
to call it Irish whiskey.
with a teaspoon of Irish whiskey being put in Dublin so that it could be called either Dublin or Irish whiskey.
It's just
How crazy is that?
absolutely
It's insane.
wild.
And the shipping back and forth with that teaspoon in and being able to call it Dublin or Irish whiskey gave it this serious premium uplift so that they could pay for that travel and make a significant profit.
It's just
weird
absolutely
is
insane when you look back into the history. Like, are you happy for me to give you like a few like key like
Give it,
kind of like
100%.
time frames and everything as well?
100%.
So like there was a point where we were outselling Scotch single malt 8 times to 1.
Yeah.
Not only was it the biggest selling whiskey in the world, it was pretty much the biggest selling spirit in the world at one point as well. Like we are going back quite a long time. For us specifically, a very long time of 1608 of the legal license to distill, but actively producing since the late 1700s, which is when a load of Irish whiskey distilleries started popping up left, right, and centre.
Yeah.
You know, you go to Belfast where there would have been Dunvilles and McConnells. You would have gone to Dublin where they were making mostly single pot still whiskies. So the likes of your Jameson, your Powers, your Rowan Co distillery would have all established in this like late 1700s mark. It was 100 years after that, the late 1800s. So this is what we refer to as the golden era of Irish whiskey. Outselling Scotch 8 times to 1, like I said. But like you can go into like the average Scotch whiskey distillery at this point was producing about 200,000 gallons of whiskey per year. Your average Irish distillery was about 1 million gallons of whiskey per year.
Yeah. It's crazy.
That's 6.5 million bottles if you want like a little punchy number.
Yeah. 200 years ago as well. So it's like, you know, that's a lot.
That's still a lot.
But
I mean, still a lot today. Exactly. Right.
But what the hell happened? You know? A lot of things happened in history that slowed down Irish whiskey's progress. The wars happened. Restrictive trade tariffs in Britain happened. The big one, though, was prohibition. In the United States happened and nearly killed us because American bootleggers, they were labeling moonshine as Irish whiskey so they could charge a higher price for it. So even when prohibition finished, Irish whiskey got a really, really bad name for itself. And I want you to kind of like think of that time frame as well. Like, so there's 2 very poignant years. Okay, we're going to go to 1916 and 1920. This is not going to be too much of an Irish person's rant on 1916, but like it was our civil war against Britain. So like if you look at like Ireland's location, like to the right of us is Great Britain, to the left of us is the United States. So 1916, our own civil war, the people to the right of us, they're not going to buy any of our whiskey anymore. They have Scotch. Why the hell would they buy Irish whiskey? To the left of us, 4 years after that, 1920 happens.
Right.
Prohibition. So we're literally stuck in between 2 countries who aren't buying a goddamn thing from us.
Right.
And like when I try to explain to people that we nearly went extinct, I never over exaggerate.
Yeah.
We would have had well over 100 operational distilleries in like Dublin and Belfast alone, never mind the rest of the country. That went down to just 4 in the entire country. Yeah. And by 1966, that turned into just 2. Because like
in the whole of Ireland.
In the whole of Ireland.
What?
So because
you
3
being one of them.
Yes,
Wow.
exactly. So 3 out of those 4 remaining distilleries joined forces.
Right.
So that would have been Jameson, Paddy and Powers. They moved all production to one location, which is Middleton in County Cork. Okay. So you've Middleton in County Cork, south east of the country, making single pot still and grain whiskey. And then we have our beautiful Bushmills, tippity top of the north coast of Ireland, making single malt. And they were the only 2 operational distilleries until 1985 when Cooley Distillery opened up, the very infamous and famous Teeling, John Teeling, who started it off. And that was it. 3 distilleries. And now what I love telling people, I've worked with Irish whiskey for 7 and a bit years now. When I started then, there were only 8 operational distilleries in Ireland.
I can't keep track of them now.
We hit number 50 about 2.5 months ago with McConnell's Distillery.
Oh, did you not? You're not keeping track of this? The Irish market is fucking booming.
It's one of the fastest growing beverage industries in the world.
I think if you look at it from a percentage point of view, it is the fastest. I think. I'm not sure if that's 100% right. There are a couple of other regions. I'm going to say fastest
growing brown spirit, dark spirit. Like,
okay,
yeah.
Fair enough.
But yeah, like, I mean, I always get really hesitant of like going, we're the fastest growing beverage industry in the world. But like saying
if you look at it from a percentage point of view.
Yeah. But
like John says, from 8 to 50.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
That's a 5 times growth. That's like Scotland going from 130, 150 odd distilleries, wherever we are at the minute, to over 500, 700 on distilleries. Like, what? Yeah. That's mad.
Like, there's demand for it, obviously, then.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. Now, I will say it is a very big American market ploy as well. Think of all the Americans left, right, and centre that will claim some form of Irish heritage, which is beautiful. I worked over there for a year and a half as an Irish whiskey ambassador. It was great.
Oh, yeah. You were well loved,
I was like, you are Irish and you're selling Irish whiskey? It's like, yeah, it's great.
You're like born at the bottom of a rainbow or something. You're making this up.
Oh, stop. But yeah, like I gave up my entire career path to work with Irish whiskey, and I remember like my parents are not into whiskey at all. But like what's really sweet is that my dad will send little articles that he finds like on Irish news, like, oh yeah, look at like this little article like growth of Irish whiskey. It's like, yeah, Dad,
you're in the right space.
I picked a good industry to be in. Like,
good stuff. I love it.
I have been talking about history actually for a while now. Do you want to go into the first dram?
Let's try the first dram.
Perfect. Amazing. So I'm going to pass you these to pour as you wish, because I don't trust moving this microphone by any means.
So this is the 10-year-old.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the 10-year-old as I pour your dram.
So the 10 is just this absolute perfect intro into the Bushmills core range, and to me gives everything that what an Irish single malt should be in like its intro. So typically Irish whiskey is always kind of labeled down as being fruit forward. Now, fruit forward is a very broad term, because what type of fruit are you talking about? Are you talking about dried fruit, exotic fruit? I'm specifically talking orchard fruits and apples. Like, you will always pick up even just like a little hint. Now that will grow and develop as we go through. Like I said at the very beginning, all of the whiskies are going to be so different within the core range. But there are going to be like key flavor notes that will bring these core flavors that will expand and develop as we go through.
So one of the key notes there, one of the key sort of elements is those ester compounds, like you say, those appley notes that will just grow over time.
100%.
And eventually...
Yeah.
And you very kindly already shared a dram of that 25 with me at the Whisky Show recently, becoming more tropical.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
But in these first few, 100%, I don't even need to put this to my nose, because again, you very kindly share your whiskies with me on a regular basis, Janice. And I know, this is exactly it. It is that I actually get a little bit more pears than apples myself.
I was just going to say.
But it's those orchard fruit. Between
very
people. For me, it's when I add a little bit of water, it becomes, those like the apple lollies, little green and red apple lollies. It gets like that candy version of apple.
It's more of apple drops from when I was a kid that I would think of. But I know what you mean.
I was going to say, normally with kind of a 10-year-old whiskey, you'd get very crisp apple notes.
Yeah.
This on the nose,
it's
very over-ripened, like, apples. It's that really sweet. And as you say, the first
like
thing
stewed apples or something.
Yes, it's like stewed apples. And that's where I think I got that more pear note straight away from.
I get like a really fresh, I know what you mean. It's the fresh bite of an apple is more crisp.
Yeah.
And this to me is more juicy. It's that fresh bite of a really ripe, like a perfectly ripe pear. So you bite into it and the juice kind of runs down your tongue and everything.
Eat it over the sink.
I need a shower now. Like, exactly.
But like on the nose, definitely. But like when you taste it, it's that crisp, clean barley sweetness. That orchard
There's definitely
fruit
a maltiness to it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Biscuity.
It's like Rice Krispies or something. Or even like there's an American cereal. I can't remember what it's called. It's like apple, very sweet
Apple Jacks.
something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. Where are we at percentage-wise? Sorry, you may have said?
40% for all of our core range. That is an active decision of just like making, look.
Okay.
there's a few key words that I'm going to use for Irish whiskey, and that is approachable, accessible, easygoing, and then that word that we love to hate of smoothness. Yes, there are a few key things behind that stereotypical Irish whiskey smoothness. I prefer to use the word accessible.
See, so I think when you talk about Irish whiskey smoothness, I typically associate that with single pot still whiskey. And that's obviously where Irish whiskey has really put its eternal stamp on the whiskey industry. It's kind of, I would say, the key differentiator of how, Americans have their bourbon. I'd say Scotch arguably dominate the single malt world, although obviously Bushmills, but single pot still whiskey, because of obviously the OT elements there, that's where it becomes a little bit creamier and we talk about softness. I actually think whilst Bushmills is all of these things, is smooth, is soft, is approachable, is accessible, is easygoing, all these things, there's also actually more layers to it if you give it time. I think, and I don't want to be disparaging because I love both styles, but if you compare it to the Middleton range, Middleton does really juicy fruit and it kind of gets turned up as you go. What I love about this range is there's really juicy fruit which gets turned up and develops as you go, but you've also got this really interesting depth and I don't know if it's purely casks and the flavor, because the depth on that 25 and as we got even the 21, the tannins and the depth that your cask selection offers, I think is phenomenal. But I'm not sure if it's the juice as well and the fact that it is a single malt, So there's quite a lot of depth to it. It's it is smooth, it is accessible, but it's also there's huge amounts of layers to this. I would personally say,
which is always a good thing too. Absolutely,
yeah.
But that accessibility, I'm going to talk about a few key things of Irish whiskies, stereotypical smoothness. Okay, well, first off, I'm going to kind of talk about single pot still versus single malt, because there's an awful lot of people who are unaware of what single pot still is. And look, let's face it, when you first met me, I was working for the Middleton range as well, and I've been working for lovely Bushmill since January. Yeah. The only difference between single pot still and single malt is the use of unmalted barley. Back in the day, it was barley and any other grain that you could throw into it. So historically, it would have been unmalted barley, rye, oats, whatever you could grow in the country.
Whatever you had your hands on.
And it was a tax evasion from the British, which we always love to stay in stereotypical cheeky Irish moves. But yeah, we were taxed on the malting process of barley, but we weren't taxed on barley itself. So we added in other ingredients. But Bushmills has been a single malt for a very, very long time. But that creaminess, that smoothness, that accessibility, it comes down to two things with Irish whiskey. Now, triple distillation. Not all Irish whiskies triple distilled. I cannot stress that enough. That is an incredibly common misconception. When it comes to Irish whiskey, there are some beautiful double distilled Irish whiskies out there. In fact, Cooley, the third distillery that opened after the absolute near extinction of Irish whiskey, they were making double distilled single malt and grain whiskey. Right. And there are a few double distilled Irish whiskies out there. And much and all is there's Auchentoshan in Scotland. There is a triple distilled Scottish whiskey. Yep. Triple distillation will stereotypically bring that Irish whiskey smoothness, but big one, climate.
Right.
Climate is huge. Everyone thinks that Ireland has the same climate as Scotland. Absolutely not. I lived in Edinburgh for 2 years. Those winters were on another bloody level. It gets so much colder in Scotland. And then when you look at America, super hot summers, super cold winters. Scotland, it gets the super cold winters. Ireland, we have 365 days a year, pretty meh. Useless weather of what's happening in London today. It is just my favorite fact to give about my hometown is 235 days of rain a year on average.
Right.
Sounds miserable.
Galway, west coast of Ireland. Beautiful place to visit, guys.
It's an advert.
Put that to the Irish tourism board. Go to Galway, but bring a goddamn rain jacket. So north coast of Ireland, where lovely Bushmills is located. So it's tippity top of the country, County Antrim. 5-minute drive from the Giant's Causeway, absolutely beautiful. But it averages 9 degrees throughout the whole year. So never too hot, never too cold. So if you think about that climate surrounding those barrels and casks and the natural expansion and contraction that will happen in the summer and winter months, if there's nothing aggressive happening there,
it's a more consistent maturation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that is where you're going to get that overall accessible flavor that is not going to be as aggressive. We call it soft weather in Ireland, where you have those like kind of like wet, rainy days. So you're going to have a softer whiskey. Yeah.
That's such a good point, such an interesting point, because you don't think about the difference in climate between Scotland and Ireland. And by and large, I think the evaporation level in both countries is about 2%, fairly consistent.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you are right, the climate is different.
Yeah.
You know, there are ups and downs in Scotland, you know, versus, so that's an interesting point. I wouldn't have thought about that myself.
Also, maturation can happen below freezing points as well. If you go below 0 degrees, there's no maturation happening. So if you have a really, really cold winter, you're actually cutting off like an extra like 2 to 3 months of maturation. So, I've very rarely seen snow in Ireland. Like, it really doesn't. But Scotland, basically every winter.
Yeah.
So, something that most people wouldn't consider.
Yeah, for sure.
Another little key one before we do move on to the next one, just while we're on that, like apple, orchard fruit, key Bushmills notes.
Go on.
A little bit of milk chocolate going on there as well. Classic Bushmills honey note.
Yeah.
And talking about
always.
that, like how that's going to expand and develop as we go through. By the time we get to the 21, that honey note turns into Manuka honey.
Yeah,
Just
thicker.
gets deeper, richer, thicker.
Yeah.
But that orchard fruit, and it was the wonderful Julie who showed me around the distillery as an employee of the company for the first time. Shout out to Julie. I would die for this woman. She's absolutely incredible. Part of the blending team, but also does the tours. But she pointed out to me that, like, we stereotypically in Ireland tend to use a shorter fermentation than what Scotland does as well. So those esters that we discuss of those apple, those orchard fruits, that happens around the 2.5 day fermentation point, whereas Scottish whiskey distilleries will typically kind of use like a 3.5 day. If you've ever been to, like, let's say the likes of like the Glenlivet distillery, you walk in and it smells like pineapple, whereas you walk in to Bushmills, it smells like apple.
Right.
So you go you can get tropical from fermentation as well if it's a slightly longer
For sure.
one.
For sure.
But yeah, for us, it's always going to be apples, orchard fruits.
So that's what you're aiming for from the very beginning of the process. That's really interesting.
But yeah.
Stevie, what do we think of this? You're tucking in 10-year-old. Have you sampled the 10-year-old on many occasions?
Maybe once or twice at the show.
Yeah.
It's on the web for what
Sorry.
You're all
I
good.
think Siri thought I was talking to Siri. I asked Stevie, actually.
Our new special guest.
Yeah,
Is
exactly.
Siri going to give
Welcome,
us a
Siri,
good
to the
review?
podcast.
What do you think of the
do you know
10-year-old?
Shut up. What do you think, Stevie?
As I said, like, I had a preconception of Bushmills, and it wasn't a really bad preconception, but again, Irish whiskey, I think, gets pushed to the wayside a lot. You know, Scotch is always at the forefront of what people kind of mostly drink, and then the kind of 40% as well.
Yes.
Tasting this again today, I would not say this was 40%. The body there is really kind of, it's quite full for a 40%. I mean, we've all had probably many 40% whiskies where it's water. This isn't that. This is juice. This is, you know, sort of, you say, those honey notes. There's this really nice kind of like fresh pine at the end there for me.
And with that freshness at the end, it's almost like it's I don't want to sound bad because it's not at all, but there's like a bite of alcohol. It's like, this is a nice glass of whiskey that I'm definitely drinking.
Yes.
Sometimes, like you say, you drink 40% whiskey, you're like,
The alcohol's not
where is this whiskey or is this water?
yeah,
What are
yeah.
we drinking here?
Yeah,
Whereas you go at
exactly.
the end of this, you go, oh, this is nice, this is juicy, this is fruity, this is smooth, and this is a good whiskey, actually.
Yeah.
You're right. I don't think it feels like a 40%. It feels
not a
like
10-year-old
it's
40%er, not compared to what is
what you're used to.
you're competing against.
Yeah.
Absolutely. 100%.
And price point, where are we at? Just out of interest?
Max, like, recommended retail price is about £35 a bottle. You can sometimes get it on sale for like £28.
I think I might have a new
For an
daily drinker.
age
'cause
statement
that's
whiskey
impressive.
as well.
Correct. Age statement whiskey.
Yeah.
I think it's rare.
At that price
it
point,
really is rare.
like, and it's at a price point that you don't have to feel guilty about using whatever the hell way you want. You know, like, everyone always asks you, I was like, what's the right way of drinking whiskey? Whatever the way you're drinking whiskey is the right way. But, like, you know, a lovely sipper as a neat dram. But like this also, so the IWSC brought in a highball category
Yeah, of course.
into it. So
Beautiful.
sponsored by Franklin and Sons with their gorgeous soda water. But yeah, blind tasting of a load of whiskies with the Franklin Sun soda water. Bushmills 10 got the gold. So I've been harping on to people that this is the perfect highball whiskey for a long time. And we have a lovely little gold medal to
prove
back
it now.
that up of what I've been saying. Because I've always said as well, it's just like, look, I hate sweet drinks. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, give me the right cocktail. Like, give me a Miami Vice or something. And I'm like, yes, absolutely. Give me all of that. But like, generally speaking, I'm not going for a sweet drink. But I love apple flavor. So if you just add soda water to a whiskey that already is packed full of those orchard fruit notes, you're just elongating those flavors and making a long, beautiful, refreshing drink.
No, I couldn't agree more.
And I guess as well, you don't feel guilty about selling it.
Exactly.
Because it's a great liquid at a really, really, really reasonable price, especially in today's market. Obviously, this is natural colour.
Yeah.
Everything natural colour from Bushmills?
Yeah, so basically, you can look at the variants as well
of
this as well.
See,
of like, oh my God, remember I pointed out to you with the 2 Causeway collections at it's the Whisky Show, just for context, because I don't know when this podcast is going to go out. Whisky Show was like, what, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah,
3 weeks
long
ago?
Yeah.
But I had her 2 Causeway collections of like, one is a 25-year-old, one is like a 21-year-old. And the color difference on that, like the 25-year-old is way paler.
Yeah.
So like you can actually see, like, as this goes up, of just like, this is cask influence, but it doesn't necessarily mean the darker it is, the older it's going to be, you
but
know.
no colour added in any of your
You'd be
bottles at all.
surprised. So like you would be surprised the amount of people that just generally think that because it's pale, it's young. Like even like full on whiskey fans. It's crazy to me. But yeah, no. I love doing that little point proving of like holding up the two. It's like, this one is actually younger and it's darker.
Definitely. I think this is the thing. What I love about this, and we talk about it all the time, you know, it's that quality and integrity point of view from a distiller, spending all this time, 10 years as a minimum, creating a beautiful product, to then pour a load of E150 into it. It doesn't allow buyers to really understand the market or what it is they're buying. I can look at the entire Bushmills range, and as a non-educated buyer, I can assess fairly well what I'm going to get from each expression based on the information I'm given on the bottle and the color of the liquid. You can get, now it's not to say that you're always going to get a very clear, you know, we've tried lots of whiskeys recently and they're so dark, but then they're super light and juicy as well. So you're not always going to get a clear picture, but you get a hell of a lot of a clearer picture than if there was loads of V150 and they're all the same color, right? It's like, well, what's the difference here? It says this one has a rum cask and this one has a sherry cask, but they're both dark as each other. What's the difference?
Look at that, the kind of revamped Talisker 10. It's glowing. You know, it's mad. It's just why, you know, you can create a perfectly
beautiful and light.
And
it's good to be light.
I prefer the
colours,
honesty, you know, through the colour. So
I've been having a few whiskies recently that just have this gorgeous, just like, and it's like when you go into like the WSET, it's all like the lemon gold color. I'm seeing happening an awful lot more recently, where it's just very just like you look at it, it's like, oh, that's lemon.
Yeah.
Like really, really beautiful. It doesn't have to be.
Well, I think by and large, drinkers are becoming more educated that it doesn't have to be super dark. And what does that even mean? Well, the color comes from the casks anyway. So all we're doing is kind of lying to you that it was in a different cask, maybe. So yeah, I completely agree. I think these lighter whiskeys, and you know, again, you look at that 10-year-old, you look at it in a shop, you read the description, you look at the color, you pour it in your glass, and it does exactly what it says on the tin. That's what I want. If I'm spending £35 on a bottle of whiskey and I'm getting that, I am delighted with my purchase, right? Everything I want and more. Perfect.
But like that 25 at the end of that lineup, it just looks like prune juice.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's like, it is so, so gorgeous. Are you ready for the next one?
Yeah, let's move on to the 16. So tell us a little bit about 16.
So yeah, this is like, there's enough for the 3 pours, but yeah, apologies that this is like a partial. I walked into this with a backpack of 6 bottles, so you try to lose weight wherever you can on the bottle. Thank you, my friend.
So, so this is the next one up from the 10 and the core. Is that correct?
Yes.
Or is there anything in between?
So we, like I said earlier, we do have a very lovely 15-year-old that is exclusive to the 50. It's oh my god, to the UK market.
Okay.
So
Class is part of your core range, is it? the 15?
yeah. So for now in the UK, it is. But yeah, that was only just released very, very recently. So we're just about getting it out and about now.
But this is the 16 has been kind of a staple in the core range. for a while.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
this is the one that I give to all of those people who come up to me at these whiskey festivals and say, I only drink Scotch single malt. How I convince people is... Why am I so scared about this microphone?
fine.
I just need
Move
to
it
like
around.
use it, like lift it up. The 16, look, I've worked for a few Irish whiskey companies at this point now. And we always do, like, as whiskey ambassadors, like the brand hat on answer for what's your favorite whiskey and the brand hat off answer. For when I was working not for Bushmills, my brand hat off answer was always Bushmill 16 as being one of my absolute iconic Irish whiskies on the market. Like, absolutely just for me. So what we have with the 16-year-old. So the 10-year-old was sherry and bourbon matured.
Oloroso, always?
Always for us, unless otherwise specified. We
Yeah.
do, of course, like have like PX casks as well going. But
No,
like,
but as the core range
as
goes,
the standard,
it's bourbon and Oloroso.
Oloroso,
Yeah.
yes. For the 16, we have sherry and bourbon maturation and a port cask finishing.
And what's the finish period again?
Up to a year.
Up to a year, that's right.
But what that year does import. So my favorite cask influence, I was such a sherry fiend. Like when I first got into my whiskey drinking days, I was actually a sherry drinker before I was a whiskey drinker. Yeah, Edinburgh.
That's old school.
Edinburgh was, look, I'm an old soul. Edinburgh was a funny time for me because, yeah, I got into sherry first and then I was just like, I had to educate people on whiskey by I was working in a Michelin star restaurant giving out whiskey lists of like 250 whiskeys. It was not part of the job description that I would be the one having to answer people's questions. So yeah, sherry cask is where I kind of gravitated towards, but as the years have gone on, I have now been able to pinpoint that yes, port cask for me
That's where it
is
sits
my
for you.
absolute, like,
Fair.
I know it's going to be a good time.
Yeah,
I'm
Like,
with you on that, actually. In the last year, port finishes, exclusion matured.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, what are your thoughts on white port casks?
Fine, beautiful, yeah. Like
yeah.
just like I'll freely admit that like ruby port, like by the time we get to the 25 at the end, like that's where it gets at like deep, rich, dark, juicy fruits.
Yeah.
Try saying that a million times over, like I do at whiskey festivals all the time. But yeah, that's what we're aiming for here. So on the nose for me, like for this one, I always say it's like a little bit sticky toffee pudding-esque because you get that heavy date note to it. So think like when you have like all those dates, like there's a little bit of toffee going on there. But by the time that you get to that palate, is just like syrupy, jammy, marmalade-y. Like,
Getting kind of like a cherry note as well.
Yeah.
And on the nose, I get a very sweet kind of floral note in there somewhere for me as well. Like
Beautiful.
coming from the 10.
yeah, I get a lot of like Bakewell tarts,
Yep.
sticky toffee puddings, like that type of thing.
All your Mr. Kiplings.
They're on the palate though. Like also I am gonna like showcase like I am not properly drinking along with you guys. But yeah, for like even just like little sips, all you need is that to coat your mouth and it gets that syrupy
Yeah.
texture because of the port. There's a tasting note I love to give for port casks with Irish whiskies, and it may not be the most professional of tasting notes, but it's one that an awful lot of, you know, when you like say it and like people go, oh my god, you're right. Ribena. Like it's not the fanciest of tasting notes, but it's that heavy blacker.
Yeah.
I remember my previous employers used to say, just like, can you not say something fancier like cassis, Janice? But I was like, no, it's not. It's not the
we go
same.
at lower class than Ribena. We go on bongo. So
And I think that's where it does start going a little bit more towards the end here, as those flavor notes do develop and become more tropical. What I love and what I want to talk about whilst we're on this 16, because it's a topic that we've been talking about off camera a lot recently, and something that you kind of touched on when you were doing your introduction. I love this core range because it doesn't follow the norm. there's been a lot of talk about, the whiskey industry, it's about to go through some tough times. And, what are we going to do to encourage the next generation of whiskey drinkers into the category? And what can brands do differently to drive sales and revenue forward? And in my mind, every distillery out there having a 10, 12, 15, 18, 21, 25, 30, oh my fucking Lord. We're all playing in the same park, right? What's the difference between the 10 and the 12? Oh, well, we do a small finishing period in this. Or it's the same casks. Okay, the 12 and the 15? Oh, we put a little bit more Oloroso sherry in that one. It's a 20% Oloroso, 80% bourbon, and then it's a 40% Oloroso, 60% bourbon. It's all at 40%. It all tastes the same. What are we doing here? Here, we've got 10, 16, 21. We've got bourbon and Oloroso. We've got bourbon and Oloroso with a port finish. And then the 21 is Madeira.
Yes,
and the Madeira. And they're three, as you said, different flavors. We're not playing in the same field here, right? These are three very different expressions.
Which is why it's called a range.
Correct. It's exactly that.
Like,
It is. There is something for different buyers within there. They're all at reasonable price points. You look at a 10 and a 12 in some ranges, and one's £35 and one's £38. You're going, what do I want? Where's the value? What's the fucking difference, right?
No, I get it.
And I don't think that there is any need for that. I don't understand why. And I think it is largely the Scotch industry that's really held on to this whole thing of everything has to be bottled at these set age statements. You got the likes of Craigellachie, which mix it up a little bit, 13, 17, 23. But it's kind of a different rendition of a similar thing even.
Yeah.
This, much more approachable.
But Craigellachie, sorry, they've got their own thing going on anyway.
Correct.
It's not just like a sherry.
Yeah.
No, exactly.
10,
and I was
12,
going to say,
15,
well, at least at
18.
Craigellachie, they do the limited edition releases.
Yeah.
And like you just said, that's where you guys are as well. So there's the 10, the 16, the 21.
Yeah.
But guess what? There's a 15-year-old exclusive for the UK, or there's a 14-year-old exclusive for here, or whatever it is.
We're really good at the picking the specific ones for different markets.
Right.
And distillery exclusive. We do have a 12-year-old, but it's a distillery exclusive, one of the 12-year-olds that we have. There's an acacia wood finish one, so they go weird.
Yeah.
And that is the beautiful thing about Irish whiskey. Because obviously the biggest question that's asked to me is what makes Irish and Scottish whiskey different? We're not tied to oak. We can use whatever the hell type of wood that we want. Now, 99.9% of the time, we are going to be using oak casks, but we've played around with chestnut, we've played around with acacia wood and cherry wood and things like that, but it's a lot of trial and error when you're playing around with different wood types.
You've had 400 years of market research and mucking around.
But there's times where it just
I would be
literally just
disappointed if
goes
you
out
got
of
to
the
this
barrel
point.
because of the porosity. It's.
I don't know if you can talk about this expression, and you don't have to, but one of my standout whiskies from just a flavour point of view that's embedded in my memory recently that has stayed there on or in or around other whiskies I've had in the last couple of years is that coconut dram you kindly gave us at the whiskey show.
Oh my God.
Are you allowed
The
to talk about that?
Tricon. I am allowed to talk about
you don't
it.
have to.
Not that I should I look directly.
Stevie's breaking
I'm
more
gonna look
embargoes.
directly into the camera and break the fourth wall. It's just it's going to be really difficult for you to ever try this one.
It's really good, but you can't try it.
So I think now is a good time to talk about our very wonderful master blender, the wonderful Alex Thomas. So something that means an awful lot to me. She's actually our second generation female master blender, which is, there's a load of them out there now, but the fact that we're on our second one is pretty bloody cool.
Yep.
So before Alex Thomas, there was a wonderful Hell Mulholland. Actually, the first ever whiskey tasting I attended as a punter. I started
really?
in my whiskey tour guiding days, the first whiskey tasting that I signed up for was actually Hell Mulholland. So Alex Thomas has been our master blender for 3 years now, but she's worked for the distillery for, I think she hit her 20-year mark literally just 3 months ago. Incredibly human, but how she can rescue a liquid and make it something completely beautiful and different and weird and wonderful. The Tricon whiskey, the coconut dram, as you love calling it, is a perfect example of that. So we're looking at new American oak, new French oak, and Brazilian Amburana casks.
Yes.
and it was a moving from one to the other to the other. And like apparently there was like a stage where it was just like, this isn't the best that it can be, and Alex can just rescue it.
I mean, it's a fantastic dram.
Honestly. So yeah,
I've had whiskies before, and even actually I think our English has that kind of coconutty, note in it. But this, for me anyway, from my palate that day, it was just pure desiccated coconut. And I think it was sorry, it's not Mark. Who was your colleague there?
it is lovely, Mark.
It is Mark.
Yeah.
Mark, yes.
Hi,
yeah.
Mark.
Hi, Mark. Shout out to Mark. He said for him it was like a pina colada. In a dram.
Yeah.
Right.
For me, it's more desiccated coconut,
for me
actually.
it was, yeah.
I had one of the lovely people from the Hideout Bar in Bath gave me the lovely tasting note of the Swedish cardamom buns as well.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I feel really bad that we're talking about this and I didn't bring any, but Mark flew in with that bottle from Ireland after a wedding. Fair play to that lovely human. I'll forever be grateful for him helping me out at the whiskey show. But yeah, he flew in with that bottle because like, I did ask him of are there just like any like weird and wonderful things? Because he's within driving distance of the distillery, all right? I don't have that privilege. I'm London based.
Well, he certainly did.
But he brought the good. He brought the good stuff.
He definitely did.
But yeah, the Tricon is just absolutely. It was given to me in my first employee trip to the distillery, given to me by Alex, which was super special as well. So when that was first brought to the people, like it's a whiskey that isn't being released. Well, hopefully, maybe if we can in the future. But it was so we have our lovely the old Bushmills distillery. That's basically not changed for a really long time. It is an old school tour, and I love it for that reason. But on the 5-minute walk from the old Bushmills distillery, now have the brand new Causeway distillery that just opened last year. State of the art, multi-million build. And it's just that perfect within walking distance. I don't think there's another distillery on this planet that can give that perfect showcase of like ancient craft and modern technology.
Right.
And like sometimes when I say that to people, it's just like you can see their faces brighten up, and then some people are just like, but what about the old distillery? We're not getting rid of the old distillery. They're just working symbiotically along with each other. Yeah. Same still shape and size. We're trying to recreate as close as possible.
Right.
But to basically for the opening of the Causeway distillery, for that launch event, Alex created 3 very special whiskies around the like 21-year age bracket. So there was a gorgeous Barolo cask as well. Alex is really good with the wine cask. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry.
In fairness, you let me try. I think it was like a 7-year-old Rioja.
There was, yes, that spicy
really
boy. It was gorgeous.
Yeah, you did miss that. Sorry, mate. Didn't have enough to share with you.
What's that?
Janice Snowden there. You'll share this with Stevie, won't you? I was like, yeah, of course.
Do my best, but yeah. So she created these 3 really, really special whiskies around that launch time for that event. And yeah, the Tricon. But you can't win everyone with the Tricon either, because it's
different.
Weird.
It is different.
Oh, I'm sure.
But in the best way possible. But there are multiple people who said to me,
but this is what's cool. And again, going back to that core range that is accessible, not overly expansive, good points of differentiation. Yeah. And then once I'm in as just an everyday buyer who doesn't know much about whiskey, I'm starting learning. Oh, this is bourbon and Oloroso. This has got to finish a port. This has got to finish a Madeira. This is what happens with the flavors as it ages. Oh, cool. They've just done a 15-year-old this or a 7-year-old that or a fucking... I want to get involved. I don't like this because of X, Y, and Z, but I'm probably going to like this because that's going to turn that.
Yeah.
Wow. All of a sudden, with one distillery, I've been able to explore so much.
That's
Too
so
many
wonderful.
brands. It's like, well, here's the 10. Cool. What's next? Here's the 12. Well, that's just the same as the 10. Cool. Where's the 15? Pretty much the same fucking thing again, isn't it? Are we going to try a different whiskey at any point? Or are you just going to give me the same shit repackaged? Come on, let's be honest. That's how a lot of it goes.
You're right.
You know what's quite funny though when you bring this up to me as well? Like when I'm dealing with I always like I really have labeled these people as the Scotch single malt or die people, and I do deal with them a lot.
Right.
There's a hell of a lot of people that have said to me over my 7 years now working with Irish whiskey of just like, all Irish whiskey tastes the same. It's just like, have you tried
How much have you had?
anything
Aye.
outside of a blend?
Yeah.
Have you just tried Bushmills Original and Jameson?
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
this is coming from
like-
people who try Jameson once and go, all Irish whiskey's the same. Well, you've only tried one, mate. Like, what are
And
you on
also
about?
bringing it back to the fact as well, there were a really long time where there were
Right.
very few distilleries as well. If
Right.
you are having a blend where there was only 2 places making grain whiskey, like, yes, there's going to be variances and everything, but like, don't come
There's also
at
gonna be a
me
lot of
and say that
consistency.
all Irish whiskey tastes the same if you've just had blends.
No.
And by no means am I saying that blends aren't a wonderful thing.
No.
Bushmills Black Bush might be the one that I go to people
It's a good
all
one.
the time of like price point for quality of liquid. I genuinely don't think there's a better whiskey
Hmm.
out there. But yeah, in the blend side of things. But blends and malts, they're their own 2 separate
Yeah,
categories as well. And there's a time
definitely.
and a place for both as well. But
Definitely.
yeah, but now I will absolutely argue with people who come at me and say that all Irish whiskey tastes the same. Like,
Yeah, bloody right. Absolutely.
but I love that you agree.
Come
with
down
us
to the
as well.
podcast studio and sample these 5. You'll see for a fact that we've only done 2 and they are very different.
I am not leaving you with the 25.
I know, right?
Just
Fair
putting
enough.
it out there
It
for the
wouldn't last.
bosses.
It wouldn't
I am
last for
not
anyone to come
leaving
down
the
for a visit.
25.
No.
You try your luck.
Yeah, I know. It's always worth an ask, isn't it?
Janice, where are we at price point on the 16?
So you are looking around the £80 mark.
Oh my
85
fucking
pound
god.
mark. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
exactly.
This is ridiculous, yeah.
Good, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Given that you're paying 80, 90 pounds for a 15, substandard dram.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I personally, I want a little higher strength on the 16. It's the only one of the 10, 16, 21 that I think it needs a bit more. And I'll tell you as to why. You talk about the port casks giving you that almost viscosity, that
Yes.
texture. I think a little bit of that is lost on me personally. I think if this is at 46%, you'd get that in layers. Just heaps and heaps and heaps, and it would be more lasting. And I think that, in my opinion, of the first 3 is the only one that needs it. I think the 10 sits perfectly at 40. And equally, I've only had the 21 a couple of times, but both times I've been like, that's exactly what I want from it as well.
Yeah.
The 16, it's wonderful. I still think it's good value for money, but actually I personally think it needs to be a little bit higher, keep that texture. Because the texture on the first one, we talk about lightness, we talk about smoothness.
Yes.
I think that the flavor is there on the second one, a little bit washed away, but still very present. But it's the texture that I'm missing on the 16 that I would want from a
And that is
podcast.
absolutely fair for
That's just me,
everyone's
right?
personal
Yeah,
palate
no,
as
that's just
well.
me, my
but
personal
yeah, no,
preference.
I would love if we also had like in line with our core range 16 of like, maybe a little limited edition cast strength version
Yeah.
would be like my dream whiskey.
Yeah.
Unless it is not me who makes these decisions
No,
as
for
well.
sure.
But I will still always say to people that the 16, even before I worked for the company, was
Top dram,
absolutely
yeah.
one of my all-time favorite Irish whiskies.
Fair play. No, fair play. I completely understand why. And I think that for your every man, woman, not child, I was about to say for every man, woman and child. Definitely not children.
Okay,
But
full
for every man and woman out there of
disclosure
legal drinking age, sorry, fucking hell.
The Bushmills.
I'm trying to be inclusive, okay? I'm being overly inclusive.
Bushmills baby whiskey
Oh
powder.
Yeah,
my
no,
god.
definitely not.
If you had not disclosed that, we might have
But
had to
for
pull
the
this.
every person out there, I should say, for everybody out there, inclusivity gone wild. I think that these 3 whiskeys, you can't not like them. Even for somebody as myself, as an enthusiast who maybe wants a bit more,
Yeah.
I think it would be difficult to actively dislike any of these whiskeys. It might not be a personal preference, but
I might just take like a clip of that recording
Hey,
of
listen,
what you
you've got
just
it.
said.
You've got
I'm
it.
like,
I
you
think it'd be very-
can't not like
you can't.
these.
You can't. I really
That's
do.
brilliant.
I believe that.
I love that.
I believe it.
So yeah.
So let's go.
Sorry, guys. Slight problem with the audio there. We're back online now. Cool. So we've done the 10. We've done the 16. We're going to move on to the 21.
Yes.
Now, Janice, do you still trust me to pour it? Do you want to pour
Yeah, it's fine. I don't trust
We'll get to
myself.
the end and there's no trust. Rightfully so, I might add.
Oh, it's fine.
So 21-year-old. We're still at 40% here. This is Oloroso bourbon and finished in Madeira casks.
Yes.
What's the finish period in the Madeira, please, Janice?
2 years or up to 2 years to discover it. But yeah, so just a little bit on minerality and like salinity as well. So like when you go to Bushmills water source, like I already brought up earlier that like we are a 5-minute drive from the Giant's Causeway. St. Column's Rill is where
Which
we
is
get our...
what? Sorry, I haven't been done.
Oh my
Sorry.
God, one of the
me a break.
natural
Did you just say
wonders
what's
of
the
world.
Giant's Causeway?
Yeah, please.
Oh my
Inform me.
God. So it is a natural rock formation entirely made of basalt rock, and like it's like hexagonal rocks.
Oh.
And it just creates this like just absolutely, I'll show you pictures. It's
Okay.
absolutely
That
beautiful.
sounds pretty cool.
And Ireland being Ireland, just going to be, full on mythology and everything as
Yeah.
well. But like you can on a clear day literally see Isla in the distance.
Right.
Like,
Okay.
From
So-
my living room, you can see the Giant's Causeway with a pair of binoculars.
What?
that is ridiculous. But yeah, so but they're
telescope.
like the whole Irish mythology thing.
Going
It was two competing giants, and there was like an actual walkway between Scotland and Ireland, and that was the steps, those basalt steps
Right.
that would take you to it.
Okay.
And then one of the giants destroyed the path.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to go full
Mythology,
on
I love
into
it.
the
You're not gonna tell the
mythology
whole
thing.
story?
No,
No.
my God, I have been.
Was that the sort of thing you were told as a kid? Because I remember I had books on that as a kid, and it's weird because obviously it is an Irish thing,
Like
but I
Fionn
never
McCool
thought of it as an
and-
Irish thing. It's just
Yeah.
like a really good
Absolutely. Oh, like trust the Celts to get those stories.
I know,
out there.
right?
Like, but
load of fucking nonsense. Hey, look, guys, there's some big stones. All right, I've got a story for you now, mates. Gather round.
there's even a point where you're standing like on the rocks and you're looking over the distance, and it's just like, oh, like you can make out like the head and a nose. And,
Right,
like, they
right,
have
right,
that.
right,
I think
yeah.
it's supposed to be like the mother of Fionn McCool. I don't know. I don't want to get the story wrong because I'll have Ireland on me. I'm just like, how dare you not
Yeah.
know this
Right,
story?
yeah, no, exactly.
It's like, I'm
It's
just
so
here to
true.
talk about the whiskey. But yeah, like you can see Isla in the distance from it. But yeah, I do also love them making the point to people as well. It's just like, you have no peated smoky whiskeys. I was like, yeah, we don't, but you know who does? Those guys. Like, creating the whiskey fairy would be an absolute dream of mine. But yes,
That would be
on
very cool.
going back to why I'm talking about like basalt rock, and this will make
The
sense.
21, there it is. So I've just got that. Oh, that's
I
beautiful.
love how much you love this one. But I'm going to bring back that like saltiness, that like minerality
Right.
to it as well. Like,
That's so true, actually. This has the same texture as our 16-year-old Bunnahabhain. It has that flintstone, right? That alluvial, as Matt
Alluvial.
Mackay says, that brilliant word. Have you ever heard the word alluvial?
Alluvial?
It's like flint.
nice to say.
Flint rock.
yeah.
You know, like shale rock on a beach.
Yeah.
It does have that quality to
Yeah.
it a little bit.
But I love bringing up minerality for this one as well because like Madeira comes from like a volcanic bloody landscape as well. So that
Right.
is only going to like if we're getting our water source from water that literally flows through basalt rock, you have your Madeira cask on top of that as well. Like you're like this lovely little bit of saltiness and minerality. It's amazing. I always say to people for this one, those fancy salted almonds that you get at a nice cocktail bar.
Okay. I'm thinking fancy salted caramel sweets, but
Yeah, so
Fine.
it does
Yeah.
go desserty as well.
Yeah.
I say Ferrero Rocher for this one because there's a hell of
Okay.
a lot of hazelnut
Okay,
on
yeah,
the
yeah,
palate
yeah, I
for
know what
this
you
one
mean.
too. There's kind of that like dulce de leche, like desserty notes as well.
Right.
Gets slightly tropical on
Yes.
this one, but like for me on the nose of this one, and I realized, wait, which one?
you're the dram glass across.
Too
sorry.
many ones, but like on the nose, and like I'll get you to do this with me. Like I can actually pull apart Brazil nut, macadamia nut, walnut. It's the only whiskey I've ever been able to kind of do.
Multiple nuts.
Just like you can say nutty, but like I can actually like.
Yeah. I know what you mean. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
I think, I'm getting it kind of, it separates for me a little bit. So the one thing I would comment about this on the nose, it's not a 40% whiskey, right? I mean, I know it is, but like, come on. We're playing games here. Like, this is a rich, full, vibrant whiskey. It has got a serious body on the nose. For me, I get that kind of minerality first, and then the sweetness, and then the nuttiness towards the back end on the nose. And I just think it's a...
I completely agree with it's starting to get tropical. You can see where it goes from here. If it was left 4, 5, 6, 7 years, how tropical it would get.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get those kind of like those plums and those figs in there. I also have there's a bit of a licorice, very subtle licorice note in there for me at the end. It just pops in.
Absolutely.
It's a really, really kind of complex dram, really, for a 40%er, but 21 years old. And you said is this up to a year in the Madeira?
2.
2, okay.
Yes.
So a bit longer
but
there, yeah.
No, and it's just like subtle tropical. I also get like, for me, Bushmills does have, I'm not going to say consistent apricot notes, but I think like when you get into like 16, 21, the 14-year-old, that's the Ireland exclusive, there is like definitely like peachy apricot.
For me, it's like the dried fruits. You know when you get like dried mango and apricots
Dried
and stuff.
yeah. No. So it's not fresh tropical, it's dried tropical.
Yeah, it's
that's
kind
an
of like,
interesting one, actually. I'm going to use that one.
See, I don't know. For me,
free.
it's drying, but the tropical fruit is fresh, but it's in the background.
Right.
I can't. It's like it's drying, and it's almost like you are sucking fresh fruit juice out of like a plank of wood. Which doesn't sound very nice, but like a really nice plank of wood.
Quite a nice horrible image, really.
I know, right? It's nice in my mind, trust me.
I think all whiskey fans like woody notes.
Right?
Like that is essentially what makes whiskey
But
whiskey.
the dryingness of it is what's interesting, because you're right, it does turn tropical, but it doesn't turn, like, I think of whiskies that have matured for a long time, start turning tropical, and that's where they get super juicy. But I think the oak from these Madeira casks has allowed for a very soft, pleasant amount of tannin that is just subtly drying and and provides balance. Because this is the thing, I think what I love about Bushmills versus sort of as a brand within Irish whiskey, is I think Irish whiskey does the tropical fruit so well. And Bushmills is included in that, 100%, right? If you want bursts of fruit, fresh fruit, particularly tropical fruit, we always say on Bongo, definitely go more towards the Irish side of things. Say it again.
Wait till we get to the next
one. I know, right? I don't need to, but I will. And that's where it's kind of going. But with Bushmills, there are, like I said at the beginning, there are layers on top of it. And I think the cask selection is so expertly done to provide those different layers, and again, journeying up from the 10 to the 6, to now the 21 at 40%. This is exceptionally well balanced. There's so much going on. From the nose to the palate is a journey, and it's just this rich, round, really full-bodied dram. There's nothing else you really want from it. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of everything that you want from a 21-year-old. And where are you at price point on this one?
So this is where we get a little bit more expensive. We're around like the 179 point for this one.
Yeah.
But 21-year-old whiskey. I mean...
This is it.
There are competitor Irish whiskies of the 21 age mark that are a hell of a lot more expensive than this. So, but yeah, look, it's just so... It's depth of character, but still being approachable,
Exactly. Yeah.
And like, it is a thing as well of like the arguments, once again, too, that I get into the Scotch single malt fans. There can be that thing of like, there's something that isn't hitting me as much.
Okay.
But, and like, as we talked about, like with climate and triple distillation and everything, but like, for me, if, in my personal opinion, if you only drink peated Scotch whiskey, which is, do not get me wrong, I love my peated smoky whiskies. If that's the only thing that you think has flavour,
Right.
your palate is not as refined as what you think it is, my friend.
You're so correct. So true.
Like,
So true.
If that's the only way that you can get flavour,
Yeah.
like that is mind-boggling to me.
Fair enough.
You know?
That's so true. That's such an interesting way of thinking about it.
The only other person who drinks whiskey in my family, because there's always that thing that ambassadors pull is like, oh, my granddad like introduced me to whiskey, and like my parents do not understand what I do for a living whatsoever. There was a really funny meme that was going around about a year ago, but it was a podcast based upon what your parents think you do for a living.
Right.
Which I think is just wonderful. But the only person in my whole family that drinks whiskey is actually my sister. But she only drinks peated Scotch whiskey.
Right.
And after me having worked with Irish whiskey for 7 years, now I did represent Connemara for a little while, which was the only peated whiskey, Irish whiskey for a while. But like, she only drinks peated whiskey. She only eats really, really spicy food and drinks Guinness and those heavy dessert like stouts, and it's just like, Lane, I love you, but your palate, like,
Have you wrestled her into submission on these or no?
Like,
She's still not sure?
she is still not sold.
That's so gas. Jesus.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Hi, Elaine, I love you loads.
I mean, she sounds like a woman who knows what she wants.
I
but
mean, yeah,
I'd agree.
like-
I think there's maybe something different for other occasions, you know?
But if that's the only flavour that you enjoy in whiskey, come on, man.
Yeah,
There's so much
aye.
depth and
I agree.
so much beauty. But you want an accessible whiskey every now and then. Like,
I mean, I love peated whiskey as much as you and and your sister, by the sounds of it. But I don't want it every night, you know, or like, as you say, there's different occasions for different whiskies, and mix it up, you know, and also pay respect to things that are a bit more delicate that work really well, like this. I mean, well, not saying 21's delicate, but I was just going back to the 10 here, and on the nose and palate, it stands up, you know.
Yeah.
It's
while you have both in your hand, though, remember that classic honey note? Do you
Yes.
see what I
Oh,
mean about that
massively.
development
Massively now,
into
yeah.
Manuka honey now?
Yes, yeah.
And yes, like I said, everything is different.
Yep.
But some of those key core notes will just expand and develop
Yeah, definitely.
as we go through.
What percentage does Bushmills come off the stills at?
Oh God, we are after triple distillation. You are coming off at 84%.
I was going to say about 80, right? Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
it's 80,
That's
84.
high.
Yeah, so
No, dude, it's triple distillation.
67
sorry,
to
yes, of course.
72
Yeah,
for double distillation, 84 for triple distillation.
Forgetting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Had a moment there. I was like, God, I haven't thought about that in a while.
Would you say is why it takes water well? Because it does take water well? Because of that higher strength that's coming off triple?
Well, it is being diluted as we go into
fill it-
cask
yeah,
as
what do you
well.
fill
It
it at?
is
What do you fill?
going in around the 67%
Okay, so-
mark.
okay.
Please, I might be wrong on that one, but that,
Around.
to the
You're
best
safe.
of my knowledge,
Yeah.
it is about like the 67% that it goes into cask.
Yeah.
But
Which
yeah.
is something that's really interesting because I personally feel, and something that I feel very strongly on now, having spoken to Billy Walker and he told me his opinion on it as well, that filling at higher strength, Scotch industry standard is 63. Don't laugh at me. Bringing up Billy, all right. I'll talk about him. I've met him, mate, in case you guys didn't know. 63.5 is the Scotch industry standard, right? And it's like, why do we fill at 63.5? Oh, well, because we feel it works best for our spirit. And it's like, okay, if you've done tests on that, then that's fine. But a lot of distilleries don't do tests on that.
Yeah.
And in the same way that you're releasing different releases for UK market or whatever, and you do different ABVs or different finishes or whatever it is, I personally feel there needs to be more playing around with filling strengths. By filling at that higher strength, you're going to be able to extract different notes from the cask.
Yes.
Like from a chemical point of view, there is no arguing it, right?
Yeah.
And so this is the thing. Once you're able to extract those flavor compounds, perhaps being able to, I'm not sure I would agree with what you said, you know, it automatically takes water better.
No,
but
sorry.
perhaps there is a link to that,
Not
right?
automatically. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying Bushmills
You feel that Bushmills particularly
strength.
does. Yeah.
Well, absolutely, it does. You know, these are all 40%.
I love that you're
so far.
double-handed, Noah.
Thank you for saying double-handed.
Ian's not here today, if you didn't realise, guys. We've got some much-needed female
There are
energy in
some
the room.
phrases that are banned from the studio, and I'm sure
Double-handed is perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh,
Lovely stuff.
I've learned this the hard way. I'm doing this
Fair
for
play.
7 years.
Yeah, exactly. You've
And let's
made all
face
the
it,
slip-ups
the
already.
whiskey world is full of innuendos as well. So yeah, you start learning. But yeah, no, I love this dram.
And what's
I really,
the,
really
what's
do.
the tour like at Bushmills then? The public tour.
I love it so much.
Do you get some new make on your tour?
So, like, you do end up, like, I mean, obviously you end up with so many local people as well working for the distillery. Like,
Right.
it is, as in the romanticized way of putting it, like, the distillery wouldn't exist without the town wouldn't exist without the distillery. The town is Bushmills.
Proper family.
Like, it's
Yeah.
not just the distillery, it's called Bushmills. The distillery is named after the town.
Yep.
It's the river bush that flows through it. Yeah, all that jazz. But there are people who've just, like, lived and worked there for a very, very long time. And like going back to Julie of just like, yeah, we bumped into one of her neighbors who was one of the distillers. And yeah, like it's lovely. Like, I mean, there's people who can start off in the gift shop and eventually work their way to the blending team
remain
should
there
they
until
so wish
retirement.
and show passion and intrigue into it. Like, but yeah, no, it's absolutely incredible. Quite old school, like I said. But yeah, it's just like, and I love that magic of just like going through. I was like, yep, this is what we do. It's old. We've done it this way for a very, very long time. Unfortunately, as of now, the Causeway Distillery is not open to the public yet. Hopefully very soon, because I'm really excited to see that, like, people being able to go that ancient craft
experience it,
into
yeah.
modern technology
Yeah.
on the one grounds. Like, but like, you know, the old distillery, like you walk around it and it's like, it's all like the old branding as well, like the previous like Bushmills logo and everything. So you can really tell that it hasn't, but like, I love it for that reason as well.
Yeah.
It's old school, but to have the new school as well behind it is just
Best of
something
both worlds, right?
Incredible to be able to, and I'm very, very lucky and privileged to have been in and walked around and had a very fancy, lovely photo shoot in the new distillery as well. It's just beautiful to be able to see. Like,
Amazing.
really, really
Well,
incredible.
hopefully we'll get over there and see it.
Hopefully. And it's just, but it's also like North Coast of Ireland is just gorgeous. Like, Ireland's a tiny, tiny little country, like, but every coastline is super, super different. Like, so where I am in the west coast of Ireland, like my family home is very close to the Burren in County Clare, but also like, you know, within an hour drive we're in Connemara. So like these are two very like limestone rock, heavy, rugged. And then you go to the north coast of Ireland and it's just a beautiful coastline, like, and the basalt rock, and it just all really changes like corner by country. But yeah, would thoroughly recommend. And like the amount of people, because like I always ask that question in tastings of just like, has anyone been to the distillery? And like, has anyone been to Ireland? Like, I know to the right of like when you're based in the UK and especially in London, because we have multitudes of airports to choose and fly from. I'm just like, yeah, it's a lot more tempting to go to European countries, tomato Europe, where, you know, it's sunny and you have, you're not going to be having to pack a rain jacket, but like Ireland is just absolutely gorgeous. Like, go to potato Europe every now and then. Like, I mean, it serves its place. I'm definitely more potato Europe, clearly,
Europe.
being the stereotypical Irish person that I am. But yeah, I would thoroughly recommend anyone doing that distillery visit. It's absolutely glorious.
No, definitely one that I've wanted to do for a long time, actually. Never actually been to Northern Ireland myself. So,
Yeah. And there's so many people in this country who've just never gone to the left.
Overseas, yeah, no,
Mate,
no,
if you
no,
can
no.
see it from your living room window, you should be
On a
able
good day,
to,
not every day.
to
Just
row over
sometimes the
there at
weather's
some
awful.
point, you know?
I don't think I trust myself with that, but
Like maybe
on the way
the
back,
North
maybe.
Coast Isla. I mean, just do it. Like
Do a big
apparently it's
swim.
quite a rough crossing though, and that's why the ferries aren't necessarily.
I think I'll just fly and enjoy myself, knowing that I'm going to get there
You're
safely.
so privileged, man.
Yeah, I know, right? Sorry.
I don't know how iconic it would be, just like rowing up to the Giant's Causeway though.
That'd be a good YouTube video.
Oh, mate, stick a GoPro on you, set you off.
Yeah.
Bottle of
viral
whiskey
video
in
right there.
hand.
Tell you what, yeah, if I had these 5
I
bottles
will
with
give
me,
you.
maybe I would make it. Just more vigorous rowing as each bottle goes down. I will make it to Bushmills.
Oh my god.
That's fantastic.
But yeah, no, just one of the most beautiful parts of the world in my very like honest opinion, not my, this is the brand that pays me opinion. But yeah,
No, yeah.
definitely
Of
go
course.
see that part of the country. Definitely go see the
Wicked.
distillery. But yeah, this we're past the busy summer season months as well. But like during the summer, it's a lot of tourists because in that one area you do the Giant's Causeway and all of the Game of Thrones recording locations as
Right.
well. So it'll be one big tour bus
Yeah.
with
Vaux.
people.
I don't know if Vaux
That's
and
Lord of
Game
the Rings, mate.
Yeah, right. Getting my fantasy lords here mixed up.
It's all the same,
But
don't worry.
yeah, they put it all into the one big tour bus. Causeway, Distillery, Game of Thrones filming
enough.
locations. So yeah.
Well, it's great that there's footfall for it.
So much tourism happening there now, which is absolutely wonderful to see. But yeah, I've having been a tour guide previously myself, I do not envy those wonderful humans who work at the distillery having to deal with that amount of tours during the summer.
With those nerds.
With freaks like us.
Yeah, exactly.
God. Yeah, fair play. All right, cool. We've done the 3 main core range products. We're going to move on to this 97 Causeway. Now, this is the rum cask.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about this?
So Causeway collection. I briefly touched on it earlier, but yeah, basically limited cask releases that are normally allocated to particular countries, and there's a hell of a lot of just one cask maturation within the Causeway collection too. So the 2 that we have been allocated in the UK, we have a 2000 port cask, so entirely matured in ruby port pipes,
Nice.
which we all love with Bushmills. And this beautiful beast of a whiskey spent 25 years of its life entirely in rum, was distilled on Valentine's Day in 1997, which is always cute.
That's cool.
And yeah, spent the entirety of its life in rum. And
Wow.
yeah, like when
From
you...
Phil, yeah? Like, literally. That's
Like,
mad.
I'm yet to be corrected, but I don't believe that there is another Irish whiskey on the market that's entirely rum aged for that length of time, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
Sorry, I missed how long it was.
25.
25 years.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
25 years
Ooh.
in rum casks, bottled at a cask strength. I didn't realise this was cask strength when you shared it with me the other
So,
day.
yes.
Oh, 46.2.
Yeah.
So actually quite a low cask strength given it's 25.
Yeah. The port cask was 54, for example, of like a
Now
comparison.
that sounds like something I want to try.
You did try it, I'm pretty sure. Did I not give you the port cask, Causeway?
Rioja. I tried the Rioja.
Oh, like that, and that was like straight out of the cask.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But oh god, I forgot what ABV that one was. But yeah, so
So you
we're at cask strength for the Causeway collections. So whenever someone kind of complains at me for why is everything a 40%, Janice, for the core range, I was like, well, we do have an entire other series that is
Allows you to,
Cask
delve in and,
and like there's something so beautiful about being able to do that. And I can only imagine it's quite fun for Alex too, of just being able so permanently inert. So we have about 500,000 casks maturing in the Bushmills distillery at the moment. That number may have increased since I was last given that figure. But permanently we will always have sherry casks, bourbon barrels, port and Madeira, because core range we will always need to have port and Madeira for the 16 and the 21. But yeah, with the Causeway I've gone there's some beautiful, there's like a vermouth cask one that I love, a Pomerol cask as well.
Cool.
So this is where we can go into the nice, weird and wonderful casks.
God, you get to really play around with everything. don't you? Like,
fun,
because obviously
isn't
you don't have, I guess. I mean, is there an Irish whiskey association that like a board
There
that
is
regulates?
indeed,
I guess
yes.
it's then obviously not as strict.
Stringent, no.
Stringent.
There is only one strict rule. Well, two. If you go into the very basis of Irish and Scottish whiskey of the minimum 3 years or 3 years and 1 day, just to irritate the Scots, spent in oak cask for Scotland and wooden cask for Ireland. So that's like the basis of what it takes to be an Irish whiskey. Also, I'm going to go further on to that as well. To be an Irish whiskey, it's distilled and matured on the island of Ireland. Because obviously I get questioned an awful lot of Bushmills being in the north of Ireland, of like, okay, like what is it like? Is it still an Irish whiskey? It's like, yes, distilled and matured on the
yes.
island of. But the big strict and the very recent strict regulation that did happen with Irish whiskey was specifically for single pot still. The Irish Whiskey Association created the Irish Whiskey Technical File, which basically laid out for single pot still. And it was really very much like written at the time for Irish Distillers Limited. So for the likes of Redbreast, spot whiskies, minimum 30% malted barley, minimum 30% unmalted barley, and no more than 5% of a grain outside of barley. Yeah. And that's what it takes to be called a single pot still Irish whiskey.
Sorry, that came in a while ago, though.
That was 2014.
I thought it was the noughties. Sorry. Okay. So actually very recent. Very recent. I thought that was like 2001, 2002.
And yeah, and like, I agree with it to a degree of having something that is like, this is what this category is and setting a standard. But if you do go back into history,
there would have been more oats a lot of the time. And
like,
I know for sure.
So it's a beauty and a curse. Like,
I think if you look at the way the Scotch Whisky Association are sort of monitoring and limiting the Scotch whisky industry versus the Irish Whiskey Association, like, it's night and day, you know. Yeah. I think it is important to have certain, like you say, sort of points that allow for categorization. Same with bourbon. It's a certain mash bill, right?
Yeah.
Now, would it be nice if it was a little bit more flexible? Yes. I would personally like to see kind of up to 10, 15%.
Yeah.
Because I do think, you know, been very lucky to try some seriously old school Irish expressions. And some of them are like, Jesus wept. Like, this is a whole different thing.
Yeah.
And in some of the newer school whiskies, you do lose an element of that. But I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's kind of, you know, yeah, like I say, I think it's good to have set defining rules for a category. Yeah. You know, like you say, God, you've got so much room to play around on cask
there still
side
can be creativity.
Yeah.
As long as you have creativity.
Yes.
That is such an important thing.
Correct.
To be able to have. But oh God. So another whiskey I used to represent was Kilbeggan. So when I worked in New York, it was for Kilbeggan brands that I was brand ambassador for over there. And they had just released what was called a small batch rye. But that went into casks before the regulations of single pot still came in.
Right.
And
so could you still bottle it as?
No, we weren't allowed to call it a single pot still because it had 14% rye in it.
Right.
And they did not know what they were going to be allowed to call it.
Still allowed to be called Irish whiskey?
So it was even like on the positioning of the bottle, it was Kilbeggan Irish whiskey small batch rye rather than Kilbeggan small batch rye Irish whiskey.
Right.
Or it could be the other way around, but like even
it needed to be very specific
on the labeling of it. But like to have like a 14% rye content, that should have been a single pot still whiskey. And it was the first whiskey to have been distilled and matured in the Kilbeggan distillery in over 100 years. So it was going to be such an iconic, beautiful first release. And
then it wasn't.
Yeah. But it didn't change the taste of the liquid. So.
No, and it was a great liquid. Yeah. Oh my, and I love rye. But yeah, I think, there's a blessing and a curse to having regulations behind it as well. Sure. But that still isn't stopping Irish whiskies. Like, okay, look, we can just label it as something different. And people are intrigued by differences as well. Like 100%. But yeah.
I really like this, which is so rare for me.
Did wonder.
We've had one other rum cask matured whiskey on the podcast from
Yeah.
Fragrant Drops. Shout out George Keeble and Fragrant Drops, that I've enjoyed.
Yeah.
Every time I have a rum cask whiskey, it doesn't work.
The amount of
This
people
works. It's
that
balanced.
have said this to me, the amount of people that came up to me at Whisky Show, and this was the first time that I wasn't actively pouring this. Like, I mean, we are at a 400-pound bottle of whiskey.
Right.
But like, I did have this like under the table, like waiting for people to specifically ask me for it.
Fair.
But the amount of people when I'd like describe it, it's like, oh yeah, no, not a rum pass person. And I was just like, I'm actually not either. And
Try this. Yeah.
it's tropical fruit juice. Going back to now it's not the dried tropical fruit. We are full blast like mango. Bongo. I just hit the mic. Apologies.
Cheers.
The first thing that I get is more before all of that tropical stuff though is
Yeah.
the banana, and it's like a really soft, fluffy banana
Exotic,
bread.
tropical, all those delicious. But yeah, it's not banana foam candy banana. It's like proper,
yeah,
perfectly ripe. Yeah.
and almost a bit of I don't know if you guys have ever tried plantain.
Love plantain.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was gonna
It's like cooked
Oh.
plantain, and I can't think of I can't think of the dish. I had plantain and it was over something and it had this sauce on it. I can't remember what it was, but it's really giving me that now today, which is different.
Amazing.
But yeah, I remember when I tried it the other day, I got the same thing straight away as that really light, fluffy banana bread, and then a bit of honeydew melon, maybe some like touches of mango. Maybe this is where I'm starting to see a little element of the peach as well that you were saying. In honesty,
You
I didn't
didn't
get
get it from the others?
No, I didn't get
Yeah.
it before. Didn't get
Fair.
it before. Maybe an element of almost like texture, but no, flavor wise. But here, yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. The Causeway collection has just been such a great one for the Bushmills collectors. You know, those Irish whiskey fans who build their solid collections, like the amount of people that will show me a picture of just like as many of the Causeway collections that they can get their damn hands on.
Right.
And it's a beautiful thing to witness. And I think the years are like, I love that they put the actual like year on it, you know,
Yes.
because it's such
Vintages.
it's such like a big statement of like, this is how old this whiskey is going
True.
to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, oh God, I'll never forget. Like I was working in a whiskey shop when the Causeway, so the first Causeway collections were released, but it was also the same week that Middleton Very Rare was released, the 2020 edition, and Blue Spot. It was
Right.
one of the most hectic like things that I've ever witnessed, because this was like a very big like 2 weeks in Irish whiskey history of like
For sure.
some very, very iconic whiskies been released. But yeah, the Bushmills Causeway collection has just absolutely gone down a storm in the Irish whiskey collector world.
Yeah.
Hands
And you
down.
can understand why.
Yeah.
So what's the general theme around the Causeway collection? Are they all cask strength?
Yeah, all cask strength.
Yep.
Some will be like the Ireland exclusive, like the Vermouth cask, the Pomerol cask. They are, I'm not going to say like younger, like slightly younger than what we have, but like there are some that are around like the €125 mark with those ones too.
Okay.
But it is literally just to kind of go, here's what a vermouth cask will taste like with Bushmills liquid. Like it's super interesting.
It's stuff for people like us to go, oh shit, that's cool.
Yeah.
25 years of rum, you've not seen that anywhere else
Yeah.
in Irish whiskey.
Yeah.
Or even in Scotch whiskey.
Well, I was gonna
How many
say-
Scotch, like these sorts of things.
I go hesitant into saying that I like when I say
can't
like
think.
to the best of my knowledge, I don't think
Someone in the
there is
comments might know.
another.
I think I can
fully
personally
rum
say I'm
cask.
confident that if there is another one, it doesn't taste this fucking good.
Ah, well, I'll take that.
That's my personal opinion. So I can say
Someone's
that,
going to
right?
send you a sample in soon.
Cool.
Oh God,
Send
damn
them
it.
in.
All
Send
right.
them in.
I'm stood to be corrected on like how. Like if this is one of the oldest rum casks, but yeah,
sure it
please
must
feel
be.
free to
I'm sure
send
it
me
must be.
other rum cask delicious whiskies to prove me wrong. But yeah, no, I love it.
Very
I
cool.
really, really, really love this one. The wonderful Hannah Lanfear, who is the specialty brands head of advocacy, who she created the mixing class as well, where you can get your WSET level training. She has this down as one of her favorite Irish whiskies. This was on her like Irish whiskey training showcase, and this was like, this was what she wanted to pour. And that's like a big, if you can win Hannah Lanfear over, once again, hi Hannah. Yeah, no, it's a really good sign if you can win someone like that over and showcase that.
I was a bit worried going into this. Right. As you probably were too.
Well, no, because I tried it the other day. But
okay.
If I hadn't.
If
I hadn't,
we are so fresh after Whiskey Show.
Yeah, I know. I've tried all of these. So
we still have like the mild bags under our eyes and like the sore feet.
I'm still on a drip every evening to rehydrate.
It was a long weekend. But yeah, no, I mean, 25 years in rum. It could go really wrong, right? Like, rum's quite an overpowering flavour, especially with whiskey, and that's why, as you say, this is so well balanced. Yeah, luckily, you know, and I'm sure, you know, Bushmills knew what they were doing, but obviously you can never, you know, guess what's going to happen. Yeah. And it's really interesting. You get those fluffy bananas, and I get the banana peel as well. The kind of bitterness from the banana there in there too.
Very, very interesting.
I think that's where I'm at, more on the plantain side of things.
Yeah, probably, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
They're more kind of that type of flavour. But yeah, I was expecting this to be, I thought the rum was going to overpower the whiskey. Yeah, but it doesn't. It doesn't. Yeah. It has just married.
It's balanced really so well, and that is very much a superpower. I feel like we have it as a distillery.
Yeah. I wonder if that has anything to do with your maturing environment, you know, because obviously we've all had whiskey finished in rum, and the rum's overpowered, and it's probably only been there a few years.
It could very well be a climate situation.
Well, I was going to ask, you know? And I disagree with that personally, although I'd love to be proven wrong. Well, I think it comes down, as in with it being to do with the maturation. Yeah. What I think it's probably to do with, and what I was going to ask is, where is the rum cask from? Because that's something that everyone goes, it's finished in rum casks. Cool. Is this tropically aged rum? Is it rum that's been moved over to the UK? Which distillery? What type of rum? Because that's something, and you're looking at me as if you maybe don't know the answer to what type of rum cask.
No, I do. It's just one of those things.
You're not allowed to say?
No, but no, not the distillery. Like we're never going to be allowed to know like the distilleries and everything as well. Okay. It was actually.
Sometimes I do know, but you can't say.
It was lovely, Mark, who said that it is Antigua. But that is literally
Antiguan. Okay, so I don't know Antiguan rum. I don't know rum. Full stop. Really, I know.
And I was really surprised when I heard that one as well, because like sometimes you can kind of do that. Okay, who owned the company in 1997? What rum casks were like you can, but no, I was completely proven. But like we can't. Like I'm probably not even supposed to divulge like where that rum cask came from, but it's the most commonly asked question to me. Of course. It's kind of important. But like, yeah, like this, like for like our new 15-year-old, the cognac cask is just like the information that you're given is just like it's a local distillery 20 minutes away from the center of cognac, and that's literally all I can give you.
You work the rest,
which is such a shame, because I do feel that cask provenance is something that, you know, look, more than ever, we have got educated buyers in the market and interested buyers, people who are maybe not educated, but intrigued and want to learn. And I think cask provenance is something, particularly over the last 5 years, but it's becoming more and more prevalent on a daily basis. Yeah. And it's such a shame that other industries, wine, cognac, rum, whatever it may be, bourbon, are more willing to work alongside the Irish, Scotch, the whiskey industry as a whole in order to share that provenance. Because if I try this whiskey and I hate rum cask whiskies,
that's really strong.
It's a strong thing to say. They seldom ever work. This one does. I want to buy a bottle of this rum. And as an educated and interested buyer, if they were allowed to give you that information, you could share that information, they would have made a sale on the back of it. Same as any time I try a really good wine matured whiskey, which is a flavour profile that I love, seems to be very Marmite. People love it or hate it. That's fine. I love it. When I try a really good wine matured whiskey, I'm always trying to hunt down what chateau has this come from.
Yeah.
Don't give me a region. Give me the fucking chateau so I can go and
Straight
buy some
away,
wine
yeah.
because I know I'm going to enjoy this wine.
Yeah.
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 And I think that we're still in this kind of
There's a
we're
lot of
living in the past,
legalities.
It needs to be more collaboration, more cross-pollination,
Yeah.
more transparency. We can all work together.
Yeah.
God, if you're selling your wine casks to us, your rum casks to us, your sherry casks to us, we are taking a big part of your heritage and it's impacting our whiskey. Let us tell your story as well. I think that there's something missed there, and it's not, it's not Bushmills' problem.
Oh
it's
yeah,
not
look, it's just a whole level of legalities. I'm like,
and I think that people just need to get over that, grow up.
You need to get over it.
try saying that to the big
I know,
companies.
I know. Trust me, I do.
Like,
As you can hear, Jake is very passionate right now about that, pushing that. I agree with you, and I don't agree with you in the sense that, like, I would like to know, do Bushmills have any interest in you knowing? Probably not. Doesn't nothing for them.
No, I disagree. It does do something. Just because they don't realise it does something for them, it does do something for them. It's like going into a shop and the shopkeeper telling you, actually, you can find this cheaper elsewhere. All of a sudden, you feel a trust to buy from that shop, right? Or when you go into a restaurant and they tell you all about where they've sourced their meat from, or all about their special dessert that's been made, and all of a sudden you have a whole new appreciation. And not only are you going to come back to that restaurant, but you might go to their butcher or to their wine supplier or to their whatever.
Of course,
in
right?
a beautiful world.
I know, right?
At the same time,
Too idyllic.
And it's wonderful for me to be able to talk like as an ambassador and tell, like, we're storytellers. Like,
Yes.
that's what we do.
True.
But yeah, no, they're like, it's a whole bigger decision.
Listen, don't worry. I'm not holding my breath for it to happen now, Janice. I just, I'll keep fighting this corner.
I'd like it too, and I really hope that, that I don't
One
have
day.
trouble of like only very recently found out that like this is probably where the rum cask came from. So yeah.
Right, fair.
I think as well, whiskey, like distilleries would sometimes like to share that information, but chateaus and things don't want you to. So it's not even them, It
And
comes
Exactly. No, that's what I'm
also
saying. I
on
think
the
that the
point of-
distilleries would be more keen to do it than you would realise.
Absolutely.
But
Of
what if
course.
it needs to change too? That's the thing. You want to have that kind of like leeway of just like, okay, if I'm saying like, it's a
what, as
ruby,
in for an
it's a
expression?
ruby port.
As
Do
opposed
we
to
need to
consistently
know?
being...
Yeah, exactly.
I disagree. I think it's more interesting to know, batch number 456 was a fucking
Was from
ruby
this
port
one.
from this house. Whereas actually,
Because we're
batch
all
number
nerds.
175,
We all
oh
want
my
that.
God, is this one that's shut down, my guy? You can't buy casks from here anymore. All of a sudden, everyone's hunting down 175. I don't know. I'm a geek. What can I do? Say? That's what I want.
I think we all want those details. But
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just-
And if you want those
we just
details
want-
too, drop it in the comments below. Make sure we fight the good
Oh my
fight.
God.
And we'll drop Janice's email as well, so you can email her, letting her know that this is what you want.
Oh God. Yeah, no, it's a tricky one. It
No, I
is.
appreciate
But
it.
I'd love to be able to tell those stories as
I
well.
appreciate
But like, look, we are working with many, many, many beautiful casks and working alongside many great distilleries
shows in
and
the liquid, doesn't it?
winemakers.
Correct. And I think this is the thing. The wood policy from Bushmills, wherever it may be sourced from, is a very, very high quality wood policy. You guys know what you're doing. And I think it really shows. And I think it does. People talk to me about Scotch, and there's a world of Scotch there. People talk to me about Irish, and I generally think that lots of Irish styles are similar. And I think that Bushmills really stands apart. And I love the similarity in styles. I do. I love Irish whiskey for what it is. I think that Bushmills does stand apart that little bit more, just as being, as I said at the beginning, layered, intricate, and kind of everything you want from Irish whiskey with a level of otherness.
Yeah.
Shall we move on to the 25? I don't want to push it, but if we're all done with this one, shall we maybe
You would have moved into the 25 after
face.
10.
I know. I don't want to be rude, mate, but we're getting there.
Oh
I'll tell you what, Janice, what I'll do I'll let you pour this one. Stevie,
Can I have a fresh glass, please?
I'm going to pass you a fresh glass. Do you want to maybe just give a little bit of a plug? Because actually we are sponsored, if you didn't remember. You guys, we are sponsored at home by Glencairn. Stevie's going to tell you a little bit about this whilst I get some fresh glasses from Glencairn.
I am. I just need to remember because it's been a while since we've done a podcast. But yes, whoa, there we go.
This is why I didn't touch it.
A big shout out to Glencairn for supplying us this podcast, us lovely hosts, with these Glencairn glasses and these capitas that Jake insisted that he must have.
I prefer
if the
capitas.
collaboration
What can I
happens.
say? I love capitas.
No, we're not just plugging these because we've been given them free. We used them before. I'm sure everyone at home has a Glencairn glass in their cabinet. Great glassware. They have so much stuff as well that I didn't even realise. Beer glasses, hats, you know.
I don't think you've taken that fucking hat off, really.
But yeah, no, it is stitched to my head, but you know, that is the way it is. You know, there's so much cool stuff on their website. I mean, you've got some tankers and things like that, you know. And they very kindly given us 20% off everything in their shop from a one-time purchase only to you lovely people at home. And the code is, Jake...
Uncut 20!
There we go. So
20% off. We get nothing from it, guys. They did offer us a 10% commission and 10% off for all of you. We said thank you so much. We'd rather everyone at home gets 20% off.
Pass that
so
on,
we
yeah.
have been given a wonderful parcel full of goodies, lots of freebies. We're very happy with that. But as Stevie said, we used to buy Glencairn glasses. I only have Glencairn crystal in my house. Wine, beer glasses, jugs. Ooh. I sound like such a toff, don't I?
go.
But Glencairn is the best, and that's why I bought it. I bought it before this deal. Now we've got this deal. You can get 20% off too. With that all being said and done, Janice has just passed this to me. Fucking hell, this is one of those corks.
Oh, is it the cork?
Honestly,
Bring it to a riot. Do you know what I mean? This is going to
someone
encourage that.
out.
Okay, sorry, don't go to any riots, guys. But
Yeah, I
this
don't-
can do some damage, though. This is like a grenade or
Like,
something.
at a
right?
whiskey show, like, ask me if I drink whiskey one
Oh,
more
wow.
time. No,
That's
disclosure.
solid.
That's a joke.
That is solid, isn't it?
Really, it is beautiful. And honestly, like, I think one of the most beautiful bottle designs I've seen of any whiskey.
That's like
It's pretty stunning.
The
solid
25 and the
gold.
30-year-old just absolutely have hit the
Thank you.
mark on what
Here, Janice, say that
luxury
before
bottle.
Jake pockets it.
I do. I collect corks, and that's the sort of cork I love to have in my collection.
When
so-
this is
When the bottle's
eventually empty,
Will you
I
send
will
me it?
make
So
sure.
you can pay for the
You're a good
postage.
woman. You're a good woman.
But yeah, no, like, look, when you are investing in luxury whiskey, like, it is beautiful.
Pomp and circumstance.
And like,
I think it's
do
important
not
to
get
have
me
it.
wrong. And I love how, because we did have a brand redesign, like with the core range and everything. Like, this isn't the old school
Not that
Bushmills
recent, though.
bottles. It's within the last 2 years. Like,
Really?
well, to the best of my knowledge, it's been
Yeah, I
2
thought
years.
it was a new read.
Oh, okay.
But yeah,
I
they're
thought it was
all
5
kind
years.
of,
God, I'm
it
terrible
used to
on
be
time,
all
guys.
kind of this shape of what the Causeway collection
yeah,
is, but we
yeah.
wanted to separate like core range and everything as well. The packaging is like a more sustainable packaging as well.
Right.
Still looks prestige premium, but it's not like the big wooden boxes
I like
as well. You know, but yeah, they absolutely knocked it out of the park for the 25 and 30 for luxury packaging for a very delicious luxury premium prestige whiskey on this market.
Look at that. It's just like mahogany liquid, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's mad.
It's just, it's like I
alright,
said
mate?
earlier.
Is it
I was
okay?
enjoying it so much, I inhaled it.
Should I drink it?
Excuse me.
Do I
Christ.
take this as a
Nearly
good?
killed myself. I was enjoying it so much. What percentage are we at here, Janice?
So we are at 46 for the 25 and 30.
Again,
So
46.
now
Sorry,
we have.
for everyone at
You
home,
are
but for me, it was like
crying.
Crying a little bit now.
It is
excuse me,
so emotional.
This is such a good whiskey.
25 years
Please buy a
old.
bottle of this whiskey. It's too good. Let me just wipe my tears.
Janice, 25 years old.
Yes, 25 years old. Okay, right. So we have 4 to 6 years. Now that my accent makes that sound like
Sorry?
46 years. 4 to 6 years
Yep.
in sherry and bourbon.
Okay.
And then the remaining 21 years. So it's technically a 21-year finishing
Yep.
in ruby poured pipes.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And ABV, sorry, I missed that.
46 left.
46,
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
So, yeah, it's just like, okay, we have just hit autumn, which makes me very, very happy as a human, for I am an autumn winter soul. My Irish pale skinned self is not made for summer, but like, to me, straight away, this is like, I want to go blackberry picking. I want to make jam out of those blackberries, those autumnal fruits.
Yeah, it is berry forward, isn't it?
Wow.
But what I love about this, Stevie, you asked about percentage, you touched on percentage. Talking about how, the core range already works at 40%. Maybe personally I want the 16 a bit higher, but that's personal.
But it works.
It still works very well, right? This Causeway collection at a natural cask strength of 46.2. Now, in my mind, you try that, it doesn't taste like it's cask strength. Tastes perfect for what it is, but I wouldn't think it's cask strength. The fact that it is cask strength showcases this has been mellowing for a really nice amount of time, and it kind of hits that mark, as we all discuss, those naturally sub 50% whiskies that are released at cask strength always sing. What I love about this, in comparison to that, is you get this on the nose and you think, this is cask strength whiskey, right? It's got that depth to it, but it has been watered down to 46.
Much depth.
Now, what I'm interested in, Janice, and you might not have this information, so sorry if I am putting you on the spot here.
You're all good.
What sort of ABV is this at before it's watered down for bottling?
Oh, I wouldn't
Roughly.
be able to tell you that. But
You don't know.
if you look around that kind of age point, I think it gets to, I think you're pretty much at like the 60, like late 50, 60% when
Okay.
you're at that like 25-year age.
I was thinking mid-50s, okay.
I could be very wrong, but yeah, I think, 56, 57. I'm going back to my previous employers of what their cask strength
That's
at
fair
this
enough.
age.
And sorry, this is
was of,
port
like,
casks.
like
is it
bit
port
basic.
pipes?
Ruby port pipes.
So,
yes.
so obviously, I don't know what the rules are in Ireland, actually. In Scotland, the largest cask size that you can mature in is 700 litres. And that's the size of a port pipe. So you got sherry butts, which are 500 litres in size. Port pipes are 700 litres in size. So port pipes are the biggest casks going. So this is the thing. When it comes to maturation, if these have been done in port pipes, what you should in theory see is a slower rate of evaporation, which kind of is counterintuitive. Most people think bigger cask, more evaporation. But actually, if you think about the amount of liquid in the cask and the contact that it has with the wood from a percentage point of view, you have a lower percentage contact with the wood, therefore less can evaporate. So generally speaking, when you're using bigger casks, and I don't have a huge amount of experience with maturation in port pipes that I've taken through to bottling at least, but I do have quite a bit of experience in maturation in sherry butts and that sort of size thing. It keeps a higher ABV versus the Bushmills in rum casks, which I'd imagine were probably,
They would
it
have
says
been
American oak rum cask, so bourbon barrel size.
bourbon barrels, yeah.
Right. So this is the thing. That's a natural strength of 46.2 and it's 25. This has been watered down to 46. And I just think it's really interesting to look at those different maturation styles, what it's doing to the ABV and then the finishing juice. Sorry, there wasn't really a point to that, but just me banging on. But I just think it's really interesting. And for me, like I said, this tastes like a cask strength liquid. It's 50% plus in my mind. It's got a real
I
body
think
to it.
46 for the 25 and 30 that we have. So the 30 is where we have 14 years sherry and bourbon and then 16 years in PX class.
I was going to say, that is the PX one. This is the point. Yeah, okay,
Yes.
cool. Cool. I'm not completely losing my mind from the whiskey show then. I remember that bit, right?
You got to try that lovely juicy bottle.
Yeah, that's insane.
But no, it's just perfect at 46. And like I will still stay true to our core range being at 40. Like, okay, albeit for you, the 16. You did make the point, okay, the 10, the 21 at 40.
But it still works.
Perfect. We call, as Mark always says, like it's the magic number. And I think he is perfectly correct for that. But for me, for the 25 and 30, that 46 point just
Really spot on.
absolutely does not need to be stronger. And look, it's at a point where you can still, I like to believe that all of these whiskies can be drank as is, no water, should you wish. But water will change it up, open it up.
Of course.
And it is absolutely stunning. This one blew my goddamn mind the first time.
And what I love about this, when you look at all the others, you're talking about was it the 21? You talk about dry fruit? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what I love about this is it's fresh fruit, it's dry fruit. It's everything.
Takes you
It's
on
got
a journey of
depth.
a hell of a lot of fruits.
Right?
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
Because I was starting off with like, again, more of that umbongo tropicaliness can't really. I like to say I'm bongo now when I can't think of the tropical note. I'm trying
It's
to.
just
to
general
pinpoint.
tropical.
It's somewhere in this tropical area.
You turn into the age that you were when you shrunk.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of tropical. Yeah, exactly. But then all of a sudden it's taken over by that like dry cranberries.
Yeah.
You know? And it grows from there again. And there is so much depth. And
There's just lovely, just kind of spice in there as well. I'm not sort of talking chilies. I'm talking kind of like a bit of cloves, a little bit of cinnamon, things like that.
Pleasant spices.
Yeah, exactly. And there's this kind of, well, obviously it's 25 years old, but I'm getting this kind of dusty books, old library in
It's
there.
that rancio kicking in.
yeah,
It is,
I was going to
yeah.
say it goes more towards the rancio towards the end. Definitely.
Little bit of leather,
But
a little
those,
bit of
as you say,
tobacco.
those blackberries, spot on.
Yeah.
Elderberries, all those kind of autonomal, berries, those dark berries.
Yeah. Hedgerow fruits is how I
Hedgerow
think
fruits,
they
exactly.
define it on the official
Foraging
tasting
fruits.
notes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You are. You're foraging with a cigar and a glass of umbongo.
You
I'm gonna go do
forage
that.
way different than what I ever
I'm
have.
going to go do
listen.
that, mate.
Come berry picking with me. You'll have
I'm
a good
not
day.
even a little bit surprised.
Yeah, no. A glass of whiskey and a cigar on the go at all times when berry picking.
Oh my God. But yeah, no, it's just great. And like that syrupy, look, I am definitely not going to use Ribena for a £790 whiskey.
No, to me it's more
but it's the
jammy.
syrupy. Yeah, it's jammy.
It's jammy. It's that.
I even say like a little bit marmalade, like more on the 30-year-old is where you get, because there's like an awful lot of like orange peel on the 30-year-old.
And I think the 30 is more sticky as well.
It is
whereas
sticky,
this
yeah.
has more.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I think most people go to the 30 because PX and Oloroso, right? Everyone, I love PX, I love Oloroso, I love sherry matured whiskey.
Yeah.
So that's great. And the 30 is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And it is rich and it's sticky. And I think that's the main difference is the texture, because this really allows the distillate to shine whilst adding a wonderful amount of fruity flavors and tannin
Yeah.
without a lot of thickness and heaviness on top
instead
of
of
it.
jam,
The 30
it's more
is
juice.
no, I still think
And
this
I'm
is
not sort of
jammy, but
juicy,
the
but-
30 is like very dense
Yeah, but I
and
don't know if
thick
you've ever
and
had
sticky
that-
and almost like if you imagine swimming through treacle, it's kind of like a lot. Whereas this,
Yeah.
you've still got the lightness of the distillate,
Yeah,
but
definitely.
the complexity of the fruit and the I think this is better than the 30 for me personally. There's not much in it.
And do you know
I actually think I
what?
prefer
Like,
this.
honestly, hands up, I'd say the same, because that's my palate where I go.
Yeah.
I started off this when we went into the 16 of just like, for me, I know that it's Ruby Port for
Yeah.
me. That's just like my absolute all-time favorite. Being a sherry cask bean as well, of course, I'm going to love the PX. But yeah, the 25 I would prefer over the 30. Personally, there are many people who will think elsewhere. But also, I'm going to bring that back to core range as well, of 16 versus 21.
Right.
There is nothing more annoying at a whiskey festival where people, because like, oh God, I probably shouldn't say it. Like, probably shouldn't say this, but like, normally I'm actively pouring the 21-year-old at whiskey festivals. Like,
Right.
I will have, it's not on under the table.
Aye.
It is at a price point that, like, for the right festival,
Is that
I
because
am going to have
They're
that.
asking because you want to.
I want to showcase it, but the amount of people who will come up to the stand and just look for the highest age
yeah,
and
of
go,
course. Yeah,
I'm going to have that one.
Yeah.
I'll try the 21.
Yeah.
And look, I get it. You've paid money for your ticket
It's on
and
the
you want
table.
to get your ticket
Yep.
price. Do you know what? Fine. However, I am going to be asking you the question, are you familiar with the Bushmills family?
Yeah.
Before I pour you that 21.
For sure.
Because just because it's the oldest doesn't mean it's going
'Cause
to
if you-
be
if you're not-
your favorite.
No, 100%.
Like, I split this. So, like, after every tasting, I'll always do like a show. I do a lot of show of hands questions at the very least. It's a very important thing to do at tastings, getting like people involved. And even if it is just show of hands, but like asking people at the end of just like, okay, right. So whose favorite was the 10? Whose favorite was the 16? Whose favorite was 21? I will split the room 50-50 over who prefers the 16 and who prefers the 21.
For sure. No doubt.
Two very different flavor profiles.
No doubt.
I prefer the 16 over the 21.
And I bet you anything,
personally.
Janice, if you were at a whiskey show and you said to people blind, here are 3 of our whiskeys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
most of them wouldn't pick the 21 because they don't know it's the 21, right?
Exactly.
And a lot of people would because that's their preference and that's
Yeah.
fine. To be honest, that 10. Again,
There's
you know,
so
I tried that. I
many
didn't try the
people
10 at the
as well,
Whiskey
yeah.
Show because
Yeah.
you very kindly gave me loads of other
Sorry,
things. I
I
can't
just
try
went-
everything or I'll be pissed.
I was like,
You know?
here's this like weird and wonderful Brazilian Amarana
Exactly.
cask. Like-
But trying the 10 again today, it's like, shit me. Like there'll be days where I wouldn't want even this beautiful 25. The 10 would be preferable on some days.
Yes,
you know?
exactly.
And there's nothing wrong, you know?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. And the beautiful thing about this range, and again, guys, I want to say this again before we do finish up, is you can have this whole lineup that you very kindly brought for us today, Janice, and thank you again for coming and sharing these beautiful whiskeys. You can have this whole lineup at home and you have got, it depends how you drink whiskey, a week's worth of whiskeys, a month's worth of whiskey. A whiskey for every mood is basically my point, right?
Yeah.
You could be in the mood, like you say, for a light highball and you go for the 10. Or you want to share something really rich and a bit different and quite, you know, I mean, you know, this is luxurious. Let's not, you know, make any bones on that, you know, with a friend. And great, I've got this 25, you know.
Yeah.
Or it could be something else in the middle. And I just think that that's so special. And there are very few distilleries that can do that. More often than not, and you know, you have people over to your house, you would rarely go through a lineup from one distillery. You'd normally go, oh, you got this to try and you got that to try. You know, here you could start and go, oh, here's the 10. And here's the 21 and here's the 25. And all of a sudden you're in 3 completely different regions.
Yeah.
You know, from a price point of view, from a flavor point of view, from everything. It's just, you know, the world's open to you.
But that's
I think that's really
incredible
cool.
to hear.
So on that note, and it's going to be subjective then, because there is a lot of variation and
Yes.
flavour here. But what would you say Bushmills' style is then?
Style.
Putting you on the spot a little bit, but
No, but like,
and I can see some consistencies in here, but they are vastly different, and I like that.
Like I
But,
said,
you know,
that
obviously I haven't tried the
core-
new make, and you probably have plenty of
Oh,
times.
it's that apple lolly note.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
no,
there we
it's
go.
straight off. Yeah, I've been very.
So
lucky
it's
to
that
try
kind
it,
of
but
very
yeah.
sweet note.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that's definitely, of course, showcase more out of 10.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
I would say if I could pick 2 words, accessible but with depth.
Okay. Yeah. And I
Yeah, I'd agree with that. 100%. Best way to
Definitely.
describe it. 100%.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. That's what Irish whiskey is.
Mm-hmm.
It is more accessible in my mind than Scotch whiskey. I love Scotch. There's a whole world there.
Of course
Great.
we do.
But I think that Irish whiskey is more accessible. And as I said, of all the Irish whiskies, Bushmill
Yeah.
does stand out to me as the one with the most
Yeah.
depth. You know,
We
a
have
real-
our little marketing thing of the pioneers of single malt, and it's a bold
Well, that's
statement.
controversial.
I like it.
But
To the Scots as well. They will accept
it.
that.
but
Just from the Causeway. Come on, yeah.
it's a bold statement. But on that though, like, appreciate you guys of just not being just, you know, we're only going to talk about Scottish whiskey. You know, there's a
Whole other world out there.
other world out there.
And like we said at the beginning, you've got to give props to the people who started it all. And that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing today.
Yeah.
Oldest licensed distillery in the world. 413.
Do not make me do the math.
400,
Over 400 years.
414,
Oh, God.
416 years, I think. There we go.
Oh,
Got there in
my
the end.
God.
Slow math. So sorry, guys. Christ, that's embarrassing. But yeah, 400 plus years is the point. Crazy. Wild.
Hats off.
Exactly. Dib.
And the fact that you didn't really close, you know, either, you know. You sort of survived a lot of crap times,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
To put it lightly.
100%. And look, if I can say like one thing, I've always taught about Irish whiskey as a category, as a whole. How I tell Irish whiskey history doesn't really change for me, because like history is history. And like I love seeing what's happening with Irish whiskey at the moment. All of these beautiful new distilleries popping up left, right, and centre all around the country, and incredible stuff coming out. But how lucky am I to be able to talk about some of the oldest? You know,
Definitely.
and it's an
Definitely.
incredible thing. But yeah, I've been very privileged with the Irish whiskies that I've got to showcase to people over the last 7.5 years of my career.
And I think you're on to a really, really exciting new chapter now. Like you say,
do
started in
too.
January, and congratulations.
Yes, thank
and more importantly, congratulations to Bushmills, because you've got a real winner. No, come on, brand
God.
ambassadors.
Thank
we love a
you.
good brand ambassador. Janice, you are one of our favourite. You've
Thank
always got
you.
really
That means the
exciting
absolute
liquid.
world.
You're always so passionate. You're bringing people in, you're telling stories, and you do it great. And it's exactly what we've
you.
had here today. So thank you so much for coming down and sharing these with us.
Appreciate that.
Shall we have a little wrap up?
Let's.
Yeah? Let what? Let's. Oh, I'm sorry. I think you're going to say let the games begin.
Let's. Damn that.
Okay, so Janice, we have a little wrap up.
Yes.
Stevie and I will do the ratings of buy, don't buy, oosh if we think it's really good,
forgot about this
or bin
bit.
it. Yeah, I know. We're going to put you on the. Don't worry, I think you've done okay. To be quite really honest, we're not going to ask you those questions though. At the end, when we've wrapped up all 5, we're going to ask you what your favourite of this lineup is.
Okay.
And what you're most excited about, what's coming with Bushmills. Could be an expression, could be an experience, could be anything.
Perfect.
Okay, so we'll come to you in a moment. Have a think about that. Stevie, we started with the 10. You said £35 RRP. £35. £35 for 10-year-old single malt Irish whiskey.
And sometimes you can get it for less.
And you'll find it on a deal if you're lucky. But let's say £35, because I think you've already fucking won the game here. Let's not give you too much of an advantage here, Janice. 10-year-old Bushmills. Where are you at, Stevie?
Before I tell you where I'm at, firstly, thank you for coming today.
Oh, of course.
And I'm really I'm glad that it's been our first Irish brand here, and people at home will probably be excited as well because I've been asking for it. But you've converted me not only today, but in the times that we've sort of seen you at shows and everything like that. And I think I've been quite naive with Irish whiskey, as I think a lot of people are, as you'll probably agree. I think you can get stuck in these echo chambers of Scotch whiskey, especially on Instagram and things like that. It's all Scotch, Scotch, Scotch. But I think this might be one of my new favourite brands, in whiskey as
Full
a
stop.
category.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
Completely understand why.
I mean that. I'm not just saying that because you're here. Like, we are honest here.
Yeah.
But I've just been so impressed, like having them today consecutively with each other. Not a show where you're drinking loads of drams like that, but like the consistency of flavour and depth, and just giving you whiskey that's whiskey with flavour. It's not very. But yeah, the 10 is an oosh for me. For price point, flavour, for me, it's pears.
Yeah.
Like pears on the nose. 40%, again, I was a bit worried it was going to be like water too sort of thin for me and not much there. And I've had older whiskies than 10. I've had a 15-year-old, that's at 40% and there's nothing there. But yeah, it's mind-blowing that that's 35 quid and lower sometimes. Like, hats off, don't know how you do it and stay in business that, but you can really tell when you get it in your glass and taste it. So
Yeah. We've started off with a big oosh from Stevie. I'm going to double down. The 10-year-old is an oosh from me as well. Like you said, £35. £35. What can you buy for £35? A lot of pish and vinegar out there is what you can fucking buy. I'll tell you that for free.
Yeah.
But if you buy the Bushmills 10, you're going to be very happy with your purchase. I think it's great. I think it's one of the best whiskies in the 10, 12, 15-year-old ring. And I love the fact that you haven't surrounded yourself with too much other shite in that sector.
Absolutely.
It's great. It's a wonderful flavour profile. Like you say, orchard fruits, more pears than apples for myself, same as Stevie. It's wonderful. It's a massive oosh to begin. Bushmills off to a very good start here at Uncut and Unfiltered in the studio. So £35 for the 10. The 16, you're moving up to 85, did you say?
85 and around, yes.
Give or take £85 for the 16-year-old. Again, 40%. This one was finished in port casks for give or take a year.
big fan of port finishes. For price, like you pay, as I say, for 15-year-olds these days, that and more. And I think, again, the fact that it's so accessible in this current sort of market, it's another oosh.
Oh!
Flavour, price point, it's
a double
at
oosh.
40% again, I just can't believe I'm getting those notes because I haven't been given those from other brands before at
this price point, at this age statement.
Correct, yeah. It's a strong oosh. Winners all round.
I'm not sure this has happened before. We might be on the road to an oosh streak. The 16-year-old is a very strong buy for me. I'm not going to get overly excited just because Janice is here. I feel like giving it an oosh because of you, but I'm going to be true to myself. I love it. I think it's a great whiskey. Would I buy it? Yes. I'd probably buy one or two. Okay. However, I personally want a little bit more texture from this one.
No.
It's the only one in the core range that is missing something ever so slightly for me. So I'm going to give it a strong buy. I think it's well worth the money. I think it's a great expression. I'm not quite where you're at, though. I love your excitement, though, Stevie. We're moving on to the 21. I want to see that excitement continue, to be honest. Where are we at price point of the 21-year-old, Janice? She said
It's around the 180.
180.
Mark,
Cool.
yeah.
So 21-year-old Madeira finish for about 2 years, we say. Give or take 2-year finish in Madeira. £180 on the 21, Stevie.
So this is where it gets tough for me because, again, it's an incredible liquid, all round. It's getting up there, though, for me personally, and I'm sure for a lot of people, it is getting in the range of money where you really have to think, maybe save up for some people,
Yeah. Special occasion.
and fork out. It's gonna be. I'm gonna pass on price point.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not. I hate the don't buy rating because it feels like it's not doing justice to the liquid. The liquid is incredible. It's just for me price point up there. It's not that it's
You do 2 of the 16 by the sounds of it.
easy.
Yeah.
Easy. Yeah. And a 10. So yeah, it's a pass just because it's just I've got a budget.
Fair enough.
And that's just up there for me. That's not to say that the liquid isn't incredible.
That's all right, mate.
Because it's good.
It's a don't buy. You don't have to overly explain
Here we go.
yourself.
Let Moneybags over here tell you what he's going to do.
Mr. Moneybags.
I'd buy it. I would buy it. I think it's worth the buy. Look, I agree. It's not cheap, but no 21-year-old whiskey nowadays is.
It's a good point.
And I will bring up the point competitor ones as well. All right.
Yeah,
A much bigger one,
correct.
but
Yeah. No, exactly
100.
that.
I
Exactly
agree.
that. I think you're either playing in a similar realm or you're punching way up price-wise. So I would buy it. I think it's a great whiskey. And again, what I think about the 10 and the 21 in particular, it blows me away that it's 40%. It's really, really good juice. And this is the thing, we are not shy to say that things are too thin or people are watering it down just for the revenue side of things. I don't think that's what's happened with the 16. I think they're making an accessible product and it's just something that's not quite right for
It would
me as an
probably push it over
individual.
that £100 mark.
But that 21-year-old, I don't see how anyone could dislike it. I think it's phenomenal. And for that reason, it's a very good buy. Definitely. I wouldn't let that price point put me off at all. The 1997 Causeway, these are limited edition bottles. Where are you at price point on these as a range? Like, what's the bracket? Because you said this one's about £400.
Huge bracket. So, like the two that we have, the 2000 port is around the £290 mark. This is around the £390, 400 mark.
Cool.
For it, but there are some Causeway collections that are around the €125 because they're the exclusive ones.
And these are small batch, right?
Yeah, it's limited cask releases,
Yeah.
as in it's not going to be actively replicated consistently. It's
Gotcha.
not core.
Yeah. But that being said, it's not one cask.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
It's limited, but there's enough to go around. For sure.
Yeah.
All right, so £390 for this one. Stevie?
I'm going to pass on this.
Yep.
Again, we're getting up there to a £400 mark. I was very surprised. I thought that rum was going to be just so influential over that whiskey, and it wasn't. It was a perfect marriage, and it was a delicious dram. Not the biggest fan of rum, so I might save my pocket money for
the 25
for later on.
Yeah, fair play. I'm on exactly the same page as you. I love it as an expression, and for a rum cask, it's one of I think 3 or 4 now that I've liked, of like many that I've tried. So that in and of itself should be high praise to Bushmills. For the price, I would pick out. Did you say there was a Pomerol? One of these?
There's a Pomerol. There's a Vermouth. There's a Sauterne.
Yeah, sorry.
Like
That Pomerol sounds.
so
That's what I would go for.
Many.
So I would. I like if I hadn't tried it, I know that I wouldn't buy this. Now that I have tried it, I'm delighted that I've tried it. I would want to pick one of the other expressions based on the quality of this one. I would feel like I'm so secure. If it's a Pomerol, I know I like that style. I feel so secure knowing that that's going to be money
with you
well
on that.
spent.
And like
So,
as a whiskey collector, if you have one Causeway collection that you're
Right.
like, yes, I love that, and there's like a level of trust that's
Yes.
established.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
exactly what you want from a collection.
Definitely.
Because you're not always going to have the opportunity to try before you buy.
yes, no, exactly, correct, exactly that. So yeah, for me, not this one, but it sold me on the collection, I think, definitely. And again,
And
sold me on the quality of
wonderful thing.
Bushmills wood policy. The fact that they can make me enjoy a rum cask whiskey, which I seldom ever like,
Yeah.
that says it all. So big win. Not quite a buy, but for all the right reasons. Finally, the Bushmills 25. Price point of this one?
£790. So we're
$790.
getting into the big bucks now.
Stevie, talk to me. Pounds, not euros, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's up there, right? Now, if someone was willing to split a bottle
Oh.
or
Yes.
maybe go free,
Pick me! Please, I'm over here!
I know a guy.
Exactly, yeah. Or even his name's Jake and he's got a serious whiskey problem.
or even get a few people in to split this. Even if you were to get a dram each, it's definitely worth it. It's something so special that everyone should try, but unfortunately, everyone won't try. God, this is just like, juice in a glass for me. It's lovely. A full bottle, I can't stretch to that. Splitting a bottle, it's a definite buy. I think it's value for money there. Yeah,
Amazing.
Yeah, no, I think it is. I mean, listen, it's a lot of money, but it deserves it. It's great. What about you, Jake? You going in on a bottle with me?
I'm in a similar position. As a bottle share, it would be purchased and opened immediately.
Yes.
And it would be such a good evening. I would stretch to this. And the reason I say I would is
Because he wants the cork.
No, exactly. That's the only reason.
I can get
No, the
you
reason I
this
say
way.
I would, as opposed to I am going to buy it, is I'm currently tied up with so many other bottles that I've just purchased that I can't quite afford this at this very second.
Poor you.
I know, right? With that being
Jake.
said, it's something
Let
I'm
me play
going
the
to work
world's smallest
towards.
violin.
I know. I'm going to work towards this very quickly. This is going to be on my list of things to buy. It will go into the collection, not the selection. So it's
Yep.
one that I'll look forward to.
Cool.
I can't warrant spending 700 quid and opening it myself on this one just now. But I would like to have one in the collection in the coming year or so. And I would love to share a bottle with maybe yourself and Ian. If we go 3 ways into this,
I think Ian would
250
love this.
quid a 250 quid a piece to share a bottle, and we get a third of a bottle
When
each.
you break
I think
it
that's
down
great.
like that, it's not too bad. It's not too bad at all.
So that's
Yeah.
where I'm at with it. So yeah, again, I think it's a definite buy.
Unfortunately, Jake's got too many 35-year-old Glenallachys that he's been given by Billy Walker himself.
Given
that he
anything,
can't
mate.
fit any more bottles in.
Oh my
That's so
God.
funny.
Terrible.
The
Janice.
privileged lives we lead.
I know, right? Talk to us. What's your favourite of this lineup and why?
My way of describing this to people, because like I said, when I go around the tastings and I ask people name favorite whiskey, and like favorite whiskey means different things to different people. And I have a few ways of like defining that. It's either the whiskey that you are constantly going to be replenishing on your shelf.
Yep.
Like when that bottle is done, you will get another, or your desert island.
Right.
So 16's my constant one that I will replenish on
Okay.
my shelf forevermore. 25, my desert island.
Okay. And what's so interesting about that is it's the same style. It's that port on top. So you like those cranberries, those plums, those additional
Deep,
darker
rich,
fruits.
dark, juicy fruits.
Like you
there.
say, going a little bit of Ribena or more
Yeah.
of a, okay. I cannot blame you there. Fair play. And with regards to what you're most excited about, what's happening with Bushmills, what's coming? Is it a release? Is it an experience? Is it the new distillery? What's happening that you're most excited
The
about?
new distillery finally being open to the public will be a magical thing to be able to showcase to people that, like I said, I don't think that there's going to be as good of a showcase of old school and new school. But I'm constantly being surprised, with things like, I was lucky enough to have been given the Tricon in my first 2 weeks of work when I was sent over to meet Alex and be in the distillery, and just like genuinely be mind blown over the creativity. And there's things that we can't divulge. But yeah, there's just constant creativity happening. There's constant like playing around with different barrels and casks. And I will never not want to work for a distillery that's constantly like looking outside of the box and playing around with different things too.
It's easy to be passionate when you're working for a brand like Bushmills, I'd imagine.
Absolutely.
For sure.
100%.
Cool. Very cool. Well, listen, Janice, thank you so much for coming today.
You.
Hopefully you've all really enjoyed today's episode, guys. Please drop in the comments below what you have enjoyed the most hearing about. If you've tried any of these expressions, what's your favorite? If there's one that you haven't tried, you're really excited about it, let us know what that is. Stevie, a newfound love for Bushmills by the sounds of it.
Yay.
Yeah, as I was so naive, and I'm just being honest, but no, like, then this is why you do these things, right? It's why you go to whiskey shows and things like that. Yeah, absolutely. Very, very impressed. So
You've got this man to open his wallet. Success, I think.
Did you take cards?
Cool.
God.
Well, Janice, thank you so much for coming once again. We've really, really enjoyed hosting you here at Uncut
so
Unfiltered. For all of you at home, thank you for joining us. It's been a wonderful episode here at Uncut with Bushmills. That's all for now, though. We will see you next time. Slán.
Thank you.